People, hey everybody, how's everyone doing today? Happy Monday. It's good to see you all. I'm trying to get going. I'm a little bit tired, not gonna lie. Good to see everybody. What's up, Jenny? How you doing? What's up, Sky Lily? Glad you're able to catch it. I know, me and Leon overlap. Maybe next time I'll make sure that I do not overlap with Leon, at least on topics that differ. Yeah, we're gonna be doing Today we're gonna be doing some CLI stuff. We'll probably do a little bit of Go, but most of the CLI stuff today should be pretty fun. Oh, let me update the slides command right now. What's up, Mo Kid? Welcome to the channel. ! Commands, edit, slides. Let me get you the new slides for today. Hopefully, I'm gonna do my best to keep my energy as high as possible. I've been we took a little weekend trip. Me and the wife took a little weekend trip without the baby. Slideshow, no share. Let me grab the link. We took a little trip to Vegas. Actually, went out to the big Vegas, the Las of the Vegas. We actually went out there for the Lovers and Friends Festival. We were not there on Saturday when all the weird stuff happened. We were there Sunday, and it was pretty fun, but it was exhausting. I'm old. We're old. We are old. It was absolutely exhausting, and we basically traveled all night. Weird plane things, and we basically traveled all night. And so we got back earlier this afternoon, and so trying to recover a little bit. But I can't hang with the young kids anymore. I really can't. Pretty tired. All right, so the slides command is modified. You should be able to get today's slides. It will also drop in the Google Classroom. If you are in the Code Classroom, you can go get it from there. What's up, Joey's Bites? Good to see you. What's up, Calaris? Welcome. What's up, Mint? Hope everyone's having a good Monday. What's up, DeStelio? Parker and Recreation. I love the name. I started to watch Parks and Recs because everyone told me to, because I'm a big Office fan, and I found it to be hilarious. And then I fell off for some reason. I can't remember if something started happening in my life. I don't remember. It was a long time ago, but I'm gonna have to get back into it because people tell me they love it a ton. All right, but yeah, today we're gonna be learning what most people skip, what most courses skip. This is where I find this is what causes the most confusion out of any problem that I've ever run into. Whenever I'm helping out developers, whenever I'm trying to figure out problems, I find that developers have a lack of understanding of navigating the CLI effectively. They know the bare basics, which is good. So we're definitely gonna cover the bare basics today. We're gonna give you a little bit more to make you a much better developer, and this is absolutely an essential skill to being able to program properly, and we'll talk about why that is today. But yeah, I see people skip it all the time. It's so weird. I don't know how people are getting around not doing that. What's up, Whitecap? Welcome, Sin City. Good to see you. Let's move this. Let me get over here. Let me get, like I said, it's been a long day. Got to do a typing test just to get warmed up. Got some iced coffee, got some water. You just coded YAML. Makes sense. I'm not gonna lie. Makes a lot of sense. What's up, Surf Kid? Welcome. I am equally as stoked to get started. All right. Let me see if I can, we never know if I'm gonna be on today or not. So we'll go slow. What I've started to do is I'm realizing that if you don't make any errors, even if you type slow, your typing speed will be much faster. So I'm gonna start out with a real slow one. Oh, and I'm already messing up. I'm going slow. I'm trying to get them all. I'm trying to get 100%, but I already messed up. I'm still nervous in front of you all. Here we go. Okay. All right, let's go again. All might develop. Give hand. To form, if course, man over. How on want we many again the play problem in help set. Okay, so 79, much better even with the mistakes. much better in front of you all. This is for sure the fastest I've ever done in front of you. This makes me feel good because it proves to you just a little bit that I'm not lying. That, you know, I can type faster than the 50s that I get in front of you all. But yeah, okay, that made me feel good about myself, and I'm gonna stop there. I'm definitely going to stop there. I do find that if I say it out loud, it does actually help me a ton. When I was first trying to learn how to type faster, I wouldn't make a word. I would just really focus really hard. Once I started speaking out loud a little bit, I'm able to get higher and higher. So I've broken into the 80s pretty consistently, which is great. I'm shooting for 100 words per minute, working on it, really working on it. Yeah, Z-Type is great. I like Z-Type. The problem with Z-Type is I get too excited, and I just get too excited, and I get like flustered playing Z-Type, but it's pretty fun. And I just get flustered because it's a game, and I get real excited. I start using my nuke too much, and but if you've never played Z-Type, it is pretty fun. See, yeah, but it's pretty dope. What's up, Julian? Welcome. The intro music absolutely is dope. I have no idea what the name of it is. It's the TikTok generation. I'm not a big TikTok fan, but every now and then the TikTokers do a dance that I actually like, and I really like the little slide dance that they do. I'm gonna practice it one day. Actually, so I tried it a couple times, and I'm decent at it. I'm surprisingly decent at it. I can really do it well in place. Can't really move side to side that well, but I'll figure it out. But I like the music. I that's my favorite part about the way that social media is used nowadays. There's a lot of it's remixing old songs, but I do like it. I like the music a lot. Going insane, trying to do a POC with Helm Go package. Understandable, definitely understandable. I don't know if you're in the Discord, but we should definitely, if you need some help with that, let me know. Driving back from DC, oof, I was able to get into my computer in a few minutes. Dope. Driving back from DC sounds awful. Like I said, I got back from a trip today, and it was like right at rush hour, like 3:30 or so. Was when I was on the road, and the traffic was awful. I never sit in traffic anymore, so it's weird. Typing of the Dead is also great. It's a wild game. I do own Typing of the Dead. Now that I'm a better typist, I think I'm gonna pick that back up again. TikTok cute cat and dog videos. Some pets have 10 million followers. Yeah. Yep. Where did I get my computer background from? So I was fortunate enough to get my own. We got a family computer pretty early because one of our family friends sold computers, and so like a lot of my basic computing background, like personal computing background, is just from messing around from a personal computer and having to fix things that I broke. But like in terms of programming, in terms of cloud computing, all that, I went to school for a little while for it. I did not finish, failed out actually. And then kind of just playing around. I was fortunate enough to get a job where they taught me Linux. Like they set me down for 6 months and taught me Linux, and that's probably where like everything started. And then I was kind of able to pick up here and there, Google around on the job. I would learn some things, and then I would dive into videos. I would dive into courses and things, and then lots of on the job training, to be honest. All right, let's get going. Fortunately, today if you were here for the Linux course on Thursday, if you're here for the DevOps course, which we're currently doing Linux right now on Thursday, some of this, or probably about half of this, will be review from things that we learned on Thursday. But again, we're going to try to frame this as we're talking about coding and what this means to you all as you're building these things. So let's hop in. Let's get these slides going. Oh, my computer background. Never mind. Gotcha. See, look at that. My computer background. Thank you for filling me in, Decilio. Your answer tells me that I answered a question that was never asked. But my computer background is from, let's see, it's from Wallpaper Engine. There's an app called Wallpaper Engine that you have to buy from Steam. You purchase it from Steam. It's like $4.99 or something. It won't open right now, which is weird, but it's just a tool that I purchased from Steam, and they allow you to, they've got like tens of thousands that you can kind of run through. Sure, I'll forcefully restart it. Yeah, and you see there's just a bunch. These are ones that I've downloaded and messed around with, but you can go into the Discover place and find pretty much anything you want. There's some weird ones in there. A lot of questionable anime wallpaper in there if you're an anime fan. I do too. I wish it was available for Linux as well. It's pretty cool. So let me just pick a new one. Some of them have music though, which kind of sucks. It gets kind of annoying. You can mute it. It didn't change. So something, I guess, is wrong with my wallpaper engine right now. But yeah. Yeah, it really can. But yeah, I like this background a lot. I usually keep Wallpaper Engine running on my desktops. This is a laptop, but it's plugged in all the time because it will eat up your battery a little bit for some of these backgrounds and stuff. But yeah, it's pretty dope. All right, not Waddle. We are in Camp Code. Slides week 3 did drop, and we'll click it. So today's topic is the CLI. That's the main goal of today. It's not the only topic, but it's the main topic. That's where we'll spend most of our time today. And this isn't Linux specific. So on Thursday, we were talking about intro to command line specifically around Linux. A lot of overlap for today. But if you're on Windows, whatever you're on, today should help you out a lot. So we'll understand file systems a little bit, mostly just understanding that most of them are tree structures. They're not all tree structures, but most of them are tree structures. We'll talk about a GUI versus a CLI, the anatomy of a command so you understand what you're doing when you are issuing commands to your computer. We'll give you an intro to the command line itself. Command line navigation is probably going to, be the thing that you care about most today. Like this part right here, understanding the concepts inside of the command line navigation part are going to be the most important things to you and your programming journey. And then file operations is last. This is going to be a little bit extra things that will be valuable, but I'll also show you how to do these things through VS Code so that you don't have to worry about some of the things that we're going to learn. But you will, everything that's in this portion right here is what we care about today. Nothing wrong with failing out. I failed out a few times. Yeah, no, 100% was 29 when you graduated. That's dope. Congratulations. No, 100% agree. It can make you feel bad. Like I said, I was doing computer science stuff and I got weeded out in the weed out courses and didn't think it was for me. And then, years later, I led software teams and it's, I realized it wasn't as difficult as school made it seem. But yeah, nothing wrong with it. Keep trying, keep moving. You didn't really fail until you stop either. I never went back. I would like to go back if I didn't have to pay the money. I don't want to pay the money. It would be nice to get my degree because I wasn't super far away from having a degree, but I'm far enough away where I don't want to pay for the amount of credits that I need. I can't remember how many I need, and things have probably expired now. Did you lose confidence? Yeah, big time. I lost. Yeah, like I wasn't passing a 200 level programming course. I was completing assignments, completing projects, and failing them or getting D's. I thought, I was like, oh, this is certainly for people who are much smarter than me, I guess. I lost a ton of confidence. I never figured out how to properly navigate academia. And academia can be a relatively cutthroat place depending on where you go. The school that I went to, when I was going there, they were like 5 years in a row #1 on the up and coming schools list, like literally like in front of Princeton on the list. And so like the teachers there had they thought they were so smart and they thought they were their program was the best and everything, and great school, great teachers. But yeah, for me, made me lose a lot of confidence, made me question myself a ton. I'd rather learn for free. Yep. On someone else's money, for sure. I think the social aspect was most crushing for me. All my friends were graduating. Yeah, yes. That was actually really tough for me. That was tough for me. All of my friends, I was on the track and field team. So, watching all my friends graduate and move on and do things did hurt. Even though I was working, I actually, I started working my junior year. I was able to get my first job, that job that taught me Linux. And so, it was kind of weird, but, luckily I had something else to fall back on. Yeah, but I figured out how to navigate the internet. 100%. That's the key. That's the key. I learned elsewhere. I actually have no issues with school. People think I have a problem with school and degrees. Not at all. If you can afford it, or if there's a way to pay for it, I think there's value there, depending on what you're trying to do. I don't think it's necessary, but again, it's a tool. All these things are tools to get to where you want to go. Some people, it's perfect for them. The amount of time it takes. Some people need that time and that space to explore, along with other things. Great. I'm cool with it. I would say I am against debt, though. I am against getting in a lot of debt to do it. But whatever tools you need to use, whatever works for you, is what I say do. To be honest, really, whatever you will eventually learn what works for you. If you don't know right now, you'll eventually start to learn what works for you. And yeah, some people want to do it real fast, 2 months, 3 months, want to dive in, learn everything they can as fast as possible. Some people know that they're not disciplined enough for that. They need to spread it out. They need to be able to explore, go more slowly, all that other stuff. Hey, good to see you. I was literally going to text you yesterday or the day before, because I came across like an old text message. Good to see you. I hope you're doing good. We got to catch up. We really do got to catch up. It's good to see you. I hope you're still in the area. I'm probably actually, if you are still in the area, if you're still up at Owens Mills, I'm probably a lot closer to you now. I'm probably a whole lot closer to you now, actually. Yeah, the facts, the wage garnishment, all that. Look, I've dealt with so many fees. I've run into a lot of fines in my lifetime with random stuff, super random stuff, and avoid at all costs. Avoid at all costs. All right, let's get started. Let's talk about file systems really quick. This is not something that we need to be pros on today. This is not something that we're going to dive deep into. We need to kind of get a general understanding of the file system and its structure, because this is something that we'll have to interact with always, particularly when coding. Again, this is a part that people miss a lot, and they get into a lot of issues specifically around knowing where things are and understanding how things are connected. They are connected through the file system, and we'll talk about file paths and how that's done. But first, file systems. This is pulled directly from the Linux class, and while it's specifically about Linux, this is actually also true of Windows for the most part, for what we need to learn today. But on a file system, you can cross out the word Unix if you want. Everything's a file. If something is not a file, it's a process. So that's specific to Linux and Unix. So if you're on Mac, this is also the same thing to be true. Everything's just a file. That's super helpful when you're managing a system from the command line. But that's not the part that I want you to know. This is the part that I want you to know. I want you to know that the Linux file system is a tree. And not Linux. I want you to think about the Windows file system this way as well. The Linux file system and the Windows file system, Mac OS, every time I say Linux, I should just be saying Unix, and Mac should be lumped into there. So today, if you hear me say Linux, anything, people who are running on Mac OS, that's you. I'm talking about you as well. And for people who are on Windows, I will specifically call out Windows. But file systems are a tree, okay? They are a tree. So they have a starting point that they come out of the ground with, and they're able to branch off into different paths. They might look something like this. This is a little bit hard to see. And let me start up G Ink. This might be a little bit hard to see, but everything starts from here. So on a Linux system, everything starts at root. And then there's these branches. So there's just a bunch of these branches are just directories. So There's a bin directory and a boot directory and an Etsy user, local, and then there's files and directories inside of those things. So we start with a node, and then we're going up and we're branching off into different things, and then those branches are going off and branching into more files and directories. This is how the file system works, okay? At its most simple form, all right? It's a tree-like structure starting from a root area, and branching off into different files and directories in different places. I'm gonna skip over the next part, and I'm gonna go to CLI navigation real quick. So slides 19. Yeah, let's go slide 19. Oh wow, Aya, thank you so much for the 20 gifted subs. So for people who don't know, Aya's been around since the very beginning. Haven't seen him in a long time because I haven't been around in a long time. But 20 gifted subs, that's love. Genuinely appreciate it. Everyone who received, so many people have received subs now. If you got a sub, now you don't got to watch any more silly advertisements, and you also have access to all of the emotes, even though I think you had access to all the emotes anyway. But congratulations, you received a sub. Please give your dearest thanks to Aya. That's love right there. I appreciate it. I'm also going to assume that means everything is going well. You can't give 20 gifted subs if things aren't going well. So I appreciate the support. Genuinely do appreciate the support. Dope. That's love. You warm my heart. I'm getting a little bit emotional. But yeah, so I'm gonna skip down in a little bit farther. You don't have to skip down here yet, but as we're talking about the file systems, because we're gonna hop back into file systems, the one thing I want you to know, the differences between Windows, which one is this? 13. This is slide 13. And we talked about the different trees, and we said Linux, we showed one starting at slash or root. This slash is actually the root of every Linux or Unix machine. Even your Mac computer, the root of the whole system is slash, and then things branch off from root. Okay, so everything starts to branch off from here. Your tree starts to branch, and you have different directories that live at each of these little points up here. All right, different directories, different files. On Windows, you probably have seen it before, but it starts at a drive letter, and the Windows drive letter is actually C. All right, so that is gonna be your root, people on Windows. And like I said, you've probably seen that before. And from here, the same thing happens. You actually go off and you create different branches where different files and different folders exist. We're gonna see this in action. We're gonna make it work. You'll understand this more deeply, but just want to give you some context as we're talking about file systems, since we're about to talk about something else besides file systems. When we're talking about the root of the file system on Unix, it is slash. On Windows, it is C://. That is the root. That's where your file system starts, and you need to know it's a tree, and it branches off into different files and directories. Very important. All right, now let's go back and let's go over the next part. So interfaces. How do we interface with our computer? Normally, you're used to this. You're used to interfacing with your computer through a graphical user interface. This is a type of user interface through which users interact with electronic devices via visual indicator representations, i.e. desktop Linux, desktop Windows, desktop Mac OS. This is what you're used to. This is us. When we wanted to see a file, we click on our file explorer or our finder. Man, this computer is having problems. I don't know why everything's so slow to load on it. And when I want to see what's in my downloads, I click into my downloads. Or my pictures, I click into pictures. And if I want to move things around, I can drag and drop them elsewhere. So I can take this file and drag it to my desktop. And I'm interacting with visual elements to do the things that I want to do. Okay, this is how most of us are used to the world of computing. On your phone, you have icons that you click on. Again, you tap and hold, you slide things around. This is what you use. You have visual indicators for the things that you want to do. When you want to open up an application, you click on the icon, and there's space around for you to do different things. If I want to change settings, I can go into a settings menu and see different options for what I want to do. And there's buttons, all kinds of cool stuff. All right, so this is one way to interface with our computer. This is called a GUI, a graphical user interface. You will hear the term GUI a lot, especially as people who are learning how to program. Okay, there are jobs that are going to have you build GUIs. So if you ever hear that, now you know what we're talking about. If someone says, "Does it have a GUI?" They're saying, "Hey, does it have a graphical user interface for people to click on and to connect with?" All right, so that's a GUI or a GUI. The other way to interact with the computer is through a CLI, okay? This is a command line interface. And this processes commands to a computer in the form of lines of text. Think server Linux, or think servers, period. Windows Server is actually has a graphical user interface. I think Mac OS does as well. But server Linux, you actually do have every computer has a command line interface for you to interact with. On Windows, it's command prompt or PowerShell. On Mac OS, it's the terminal. Same thing, it's a terminal as well on Linux. But this is where we instead type in commands. We don't have the same visual indicators to do what we need to do. We've got to do it all through text. We read text to get information. We submit a command to make the computer do what we want it to do, and then we can get more text to figure out if it worked, but that's going to be our feedback. Text is going to be our only feedback, and we're going to be submitting text to the computer to make it do what we want it to do. All right, so those are two ways: GUIs or GUIs or CLIs, or I only very recently heard on like Wednesday of last week the term CLI. Don't say that. I don't like it. We said we liked it. We don't like it. CLI or command line interface, the command line, or GUIs. All right. That Apple model is where I started. That's dope, first off. Interestingly enough, I feel like we had one of these, but I don't think I knew what it was. I have an older brother. I have a brother that's 6 years older than me. Now, he's awful with computers. Absolutely terrible with computers. So he didn't get anything from it, but I swear we had one of these because I remember giant floppy disks. And I remember a computer of this color. I don't know much else about it. I don't think I ever did anything with it. But that would have been dope. I do wish I was someone who got into the cool stuff with older computers. Like even the computer that we're talking about. Compact Presarios are what me and my family had, and all I did was just use dial-up and probably go to sites I shouldn't have been going to and messed around and basically just learn how to remove viruses from my computer. I actually did that for a long time. Like I actually made money in college removing viruses from people's computers and burning CDs as well. But that's kind of the stuff I knew how to do. I never really got into programming that early. My public school was legit, had a computer lab in the early 90s. That's dope. That's dope. I think our school had a computer lab as well. But we didn't use it often. Like we had one, but it wasn't like, it was like a special thing for, I guess we probably didn't have any teachers who knew what to do with it, to be honest. So yeah, two ways to interact with the computer. Today we're going to be learning about the CLI, the command line interface. We're going to learn about interfacing with our computer from the command line. Don't worry about this slide right now. We'll come back to this argument slide. Anatomy of a command. This part is important. When we say we're going to control our computer with some commands, what does that mean? It actually means we're going to have to learn some commands to issue to our computer. But we need to know what that looks like. We need to understand, is it just a word? Are there different pieces to it? Let's talk about the anatomy of a command. So this is an example command, and there's actually 3 different pieces of what you're seeing right now. All right. There is the first part here. This right here is the actual command itself. Okay. This is the command. This will when we issue a command, it has things that the computer will do. It's a little program, and it will interface with the computer and do a specific task. Okay, so the command is the first item that'll be there. Then there might be a space, and there's one of two things after that. After the command, there might be something like this, and this is optional. This is flags. And I'll put optional under here. And I might as well just do this one here. And this last one is arguments. Or I'm gonna put slash parameters. And most people don't think of that as parameters. These are also optional as well. Okay, but there's usually not as optional as so these are basically always optional. Maybe I'll put that in the front here. Always optional, and these are sometimes optional. Okay, these are sometimes optional. So the first one is the command. This will do a specific thing. We'll have to learn what that thing is, but this will do a specific thing. Then the flags that you put in, usually they'll have a dash in the front. That's how you know they are flags. They won't always, but usually they'll have flags. They usually have a dash so that you can clearly see that. These will be modifiers to the command. So it will make the command operate differently from how it does by itself. Okay, this might be something like this command ls. What it does is it lists out all of the files and things that are in a directory. So if you're inside of a directory from the command line, the way that you see what files and folders are there is using this ls command. We're going to learn that in a second. But once you start adding these modifiers, by default, ls just spits out some information. And actually, let's see this command in action. I'll leave that up. We're actually not going to delete the command. I appreciate that. Sometimes I struggle through it. Like I said, today I'm a little bit foggy because, like I said, I got almost no sleep, but I do appreciate that. It definitely makes me feel good. I'm glad it's helping for sure. Just Cool Pool, thank you so much for the Twitch Prime sub. 12 months, that's love right there. I'm gonna drop into Linux because that's what this command is. This is the example that we're doing. If I type in just ls and I hit ls, pay attention to the type of information that I get back. This is the command line right here, and when I type it in, I get a couple things back. They're separated by spaces, but I get a couple of different things. These are basically files and folders. Okay, but if I do an ls-lah, look at how different that command is. Look at how different the output is. And so again, it's giving me the same information actually. A lot of the same stuff is here, but there's extra information that will do different things. And so each of those flags does a different thing. If I just do an ls-l, that changes it in one way. If I add an a, take a look. This is much different from this. All right. And then when I add the h, you probably can't tell, but this is different from this. And so let's talk about that really quick. This ls just lists things out. It lists the files and the directories that are here. When I do the -l, it is a long listing. So it gives me some other information here. This other information here, this is things like the permissions of the file, who owns the file, the size of the file, the date it was last updated or created. Okay, this is actually super useful information. Hard to read, hard to parse when you first see it, but actually really useful information. But these are the names of the files and folders over here. When I did an A, it started to show some other files we didn't see before. And those are actually hidden files. So the A stands for all. Show me all files, hidden and non-hidden. And so files starting with a dot in Linux are how you hide them. That's not super, it's important to know that. Like it's helpful to know that. But again, we're not learning Linux here. We're just talking about some command line concepts. And the concept is there are flags that modify what a command does. And then the H here, when I added the H, you probably can't tell. Here's what it changed. Take a look at this. It says 4096, 4096, 4096, 1934. Instead, down here it says 4.0K, 4.0K, 1.9K. And so the H makes the file sizes human readable. That's what the H does. And so if they were gigabytes, you know, it would instead be, you know, once we get to megabytes, it says 45 megabytes instead of, look at these. Look at both of these right here. 45 megabytes in, so this is bytes. This is in kilobytes or megabytes, much more easily readable to a human, okay? Same file size, listed in a different format. So all these flags do is they change the way the command operates. And we'll learn later how to know, how to find out what those flags are and figure out what that information is. But the flags, that is what they do, okay? They modify what the command does. And then the argument. Sometimes this argument over here is necessary. It's not always necessary. We'll talk about some of the commands where it is necessary, but a lot of commands do have arguments, and sometimes there are multiple ones, okay? Basically, they won't have the dash in front, and these arguments basically are needed by the command to know what the command does. Some of the commands are things like copy. If you want to copy a file, you got to give it a file to copy, and that's where you would pass in the argument. So if I wanted to copy my test, maybe I had a test.txt file that I was using. If I wanted to copy it, I would have to use test.txt as an argument so that the command would know what file to copy. Okay, so the first part is you'll have a command. Then you might have some flags to modify what the command does, and then you will have some arguments or some parameters which are passed into the command to make sure we understand what's going on. We'll be learning Go in this course. Today, we'll be doing a little bit of Go, but today, this whole course is about Go. We are going to hop into VS Code and do some things, but you'll actually see why we need to know this command line stuff. You can't just program without understanding these concepts. But yes, we will be learning some Go. Which language is better to learn, Go or Python? Python is easier to learn. Python is easier to learn. I believe learning Go will make you a better programmer long term. Learning all the concepts of Go will make you a better programmer long term. But Python is easier to learn. Python probably has more entry level roles and more a much more wide use case. So you might there's a lot of space that you could find. You can find a lot of space where you feel this is valuable or fun, as opposed to Go. But yeah, so the arguments are directing how the command is functioning. Yes, and so let's actually. I'm trying not to dive too far ahead, but yes, let's actually take this command. Let's take this command. This command actually does take in. LS does actually need an argument, but by default, if you don't pass one in, it uses a certain one by default. And the one that it uses is actually, when I do LS like this, it's actually the same thing as if I did this. LS and LS dot. You're about to learn what the dot is in a few slides, but when I do LS dot is how you specify right here. So LS does take in an argument, and so it says list, and list whatever I tell you to list, okay? And so by default, it says list right here. But if I do LS documents, like the, actually, I don't even think I have a documents folder. I don't. But if I choose a different folder, so if I do an LS and I pass in this is actually a file path to a directory somewhere else on my computer. This time, what it does is instead of listing out the files and directories that are right here, it lists out the files and directories that are at this location. So the ls command does take in an argument. It takes an argument that specifies where you're supposed to list out the information from. And by default, it will basically fill in, if I just do ls alone, it'll basically fill in a dot saying, hey, right here, I'm gonna assume that if you don't tell me where to list things out from, I think you wanna use right here. I'm gonna make your life a little bit easier. And so, yeah, so different commands, again, If I wanted to make a directory, okay, if I want to make a new folder, it takes in an argument. It takes in a parameter, because it can't just, I can type in make directory and actually get this error that says missing operand. It's saying, hey, make directory is the command. You did issue me a command, and I understand what that command is supposed to do. If I issue a command that's not real, take a look at that. It says command not found. That's not something I know what to do with. But because I entered in a proper command, the computer knows. It's saying, hey, I got the command. I know how this thing works, but I need some more information. I need a parameter. I need an argument to be able to completely do what I want to do. And so if I make their test directory, and then I do an ls right where I am, now this test directory is here because I gave it the information that it needed. It'll take some time to kind of get comfortable with that, and to figure out how these commands work. But as you see them, as you copy and paste commands offline, I want you to know what you're looking at. You'll often see commands that have lots of different pieces, that have lots of dashes with a bunch of different options after it. And they might have one or two arguments. Again, you can have some commands take multiple arguments. When we go to do the copy command actually takes two arguments, because it has what you want to copy from and what you want to copy to. So if I want to copy a file from my desktop to my documents, I've got to first tell it what file I want to copy. So that's the first argument. And then the second argument is where it needs to be copied to. So some different commands take in multiple arguments. Learn Go, then Python. I agree. You make it comfortable and never learn Go. I agree. I do agree with that. But, if people are going for speed of learning, Python's it. I really think you'll go farther. I think you'll go farther, though. I think you'll be a much better programmer if you spend time with Go first. Okay. This is the most important path. Everything that we're learning so far is in support of this. This is what you need to know as a programmer. This is what you need to know. You don't, yes, the flags and everything will help. You are going to run into, you will have to interact with the command line 100%. You will need to know, you will need to know these things, but I think those things are relatively easy to start to understand contextually. As someone gives you a README to start practicing with and to copy commands from, I think in the context, you'll start to understand what some of these things mean. That's great. I think it'll happen, and it's super duper important to know. But this is the most important piece, and this is where I see people struggling all the time, and it makes them so they can't build an application, or they can't get an application to work, because they don't understand file pathing and how the files on their systems are configured to work together. So absolute file pathing. If you were to add a flag to the argument in the command, would the flag just change how the argument is directing to the command? Maybe. Maybe. Possibly. The flags do different things. It modifies the default actions that the command will do. It modifies that. So absolute file pathing. So file systems have a tree-like structure. So we talked about that a little bit. You can follow that tree to get to any file or directory that you would like to get to, okay? That is how we know where things on our machine are. We follow this directory tree, and we can figure out where a file is. That path that we follow to get there is also how we represent where a file or directory is. It's how we reference one. It's how we access a file. That's what's so important. You need to know, you need to kind of have an understanding of the directory tree, because that's how we need to access our files. Computer has to know where it is for you to be able to use it. Absolute file pathing. Absolute. You'll hear this term. Absolute file pathing is the full path necessary to get from the root of the file system. All right, so from the very root of the file system to the file or directory that you desire. So the absolute path is the full path from the root of the system to where the file exists at, okay? So same start to the finish. So every absolute file path on your system will start at the exact same place, all right? The root of every Linux or Unix system is /. Very, very important. /. The root of Windows will be C://. Now, there is some variation here. I'm saying this as matter of factly because this is always the case, but this is the root of the system itself. Sometimes you might have other files and directories that exist on your machine. So it's particularly in Windows. Let's say you have another directory mounted. Another like file system mounted. It might start at D://. And so that will be the root of that file system. So that can be a little bit confusing, but for right now, for all intents and purposes, we'll say that we will do a C://. That's the root. This means that every absolute file path must begin with a slash on Linux or Unix or Windows or Mac OS, which is Unix, or it must begin with a C://. So if anyone ever asks you to give the absolute file path of something, it must start with either the slash or the C://. That's very, very important. That also means you can easily identify whether or not a file path is absolute or not. As long as you see a slash at the front, it's absolute. If you don't see a slash at the front, it is not absolute. As long as you see C:// it's absolute. If you don't, it's not. Windows is a little bit different, actually. There's some Windows you can actually do some shorthand for some things, and I'll throw that out there in a little bit as we get a little bit farther. But for the most part, if you don't see it start with one of those things, it is not an absolute file path. So that is what absolute file pathing is. How do I get from the start of the system to where my file or directory is? If it's not absolute, what is it? If it's not absolute, it's relative. These are the two types of file paths. It's either absolute, starting from the root of the system, or it's relative. Relative file path is the file path is file path necessary to get to the file or directory that you desire. So if you already know the file that you want to get to or directory, but it's relative to your current location. Okay, so relative file path will always change depending on where you are in the system. The absolute file path will never change. Okay, if my file exists at this place and I don't move it, the absolute file path will always be the same, but relative file path will change depending on where I am, because that file path is relative to where I currently am. So think about it like MapQuest directions. If you're always going from your house to school, the starting point is always your house, and you're going to school, you know, that's never going to change. But let's say you go to your friend's house now, and you're trying to get to school now. It's not going to take you back home first and then take you to school like you're used to. It's going to figure out how to get to school from your friend's house. And so some of those turns are things you aren't going to take from the beginning. You're going to go there the fastest way relative to where you are right now. And so again, this can be pretty confusing, but the thing that you know about this is, if it's relative, it simply does not start with a slash or the C://. If it doesn't have that, if it just starts with the word, then you know it's a relative file path. So absolute starts from the root of the system. Relative starts relative to where you are now. As a programmer, you will use file paths often. I can't tell you how many problems you're going to run into. In fact, one of the problems we ran into last class when we're trying to make Go run by clicking the run button, the reason it doesn't work has to do with something called Go modules. But all of the Go modules and the issues that we were having, all of it is kind of wrapped around file paths and where it's expecting certain files to be and what it's trying to access at a given time. So you will, this is a big thing. You will deal with this a lot, and it will cause you some heartache until you can kind of really cement this knowledge in your head. Why was Go created, and for what purpose? It was a systems language created out of Google, mostly to solve kind of the situations at scale in which they run into. They wanted it to be fast and performant for systems, but also pretty fun and easy to write. So Go is one of the few compiled programming languages with garbage collection built in. You don't got to manage any kind of memory or anything crazy, but you can get things done quickly in it, but it's also fast and performant for systems. So it's good for a lot of system stuff. People build a lot of CLI applications for it. People build a lot of tools that you deal with from the command line for it. But it's kind of general purpose nowadays, though. It's growing into more and more use cases, but it's very fast. All right, so let me show you some absolute or relative file paths on both Linux and Windows. So again, if you're on Mac, you can go into your Finder. If you're on Windows, you can hop into your file explorer, and if you click on this PC, there pretty much will always be this local disk right here, and you can see this C:. This is my file system. Okay, you might have some other drives if you have other things installed, but if I click on this, I can start to get more folders, and most of the things in Windows and Mac, they abstract, desktop environments abstract a lot of the understanding of the file system away from you. So when you go in and install a program, it might ask you, it might pop up with a box that says, hey, would you like to install this at this location? And they'll give you actually a long string, which is a space on the file system. But usually nobody pays attention to it. Almost never you pay attention to where it's getting installed at, and you click next, and Windows or Mac goes off and it sticks files actually in different places. It might install that main component in the file that you selected, but it might go off and install things in other places on your system. When we're dealing with things from the command line, we're gonna, it's super important that we know kind of where these things are and where things are getting installed. But you can go through right here and you can kind of click into some of these folders. For Windows, if you click into like program files, this is kind of where most of your applications are going to get installed at. But as I'm clicking in deeper into these, let's go Steam. So Steam is where my video game library is. I don't really have anything on this computer, but up top, you can actually see it's starting to build out a much longer tree from the file system. It's starting from this PC or local disk C, then it's going to program files, and then it's going to Steam. If you click the empty space here, it will show you a file system path. Actually, it'll show you something a little bit more. Actually, I'm gonna click into one more thing. Let's go into bin. And yeah, so a little bit longer. And here we now have a file system path. So these are the steps that we can take. This is the path that we can take to get to the file or folder that we want to get to. We're looking in the bin folder, but it starts at C. Well, it starts at C. Okay, so it starts at C, and then it goes to program files. And then it goes to Steam. And then it goes to bin. So inside of C, there are lots of different directories. Whoops. How do I do the undo here? I don't know why it's drawing all that. But from C, there are a bunch of different folders and directories that exist. Program files is just one of them. Okay, and so from that tree, we jumped into program files first, and then you can actually see once we were in program files. Let's go back to program files. See, there are a bunch of different directories that we could go into instead. Okay, and again, these are just different trees, different ways we're taking from that file system, different branches we're taking from the file system that take us to different folders and to different files all around the system. Okay, this is the same thing for Mac, same thing for Linux, but your file structure, your directory structure is going to look a little bit different. Windows on one hand uses backslash. When do I use C versus C? Oh, with the two backslashes. I think you can do either one whenever you want. I'm actually not a huge, I actually don't work really inside of Windows heavily. So maybe it's just one slash now. It used to always be two. I'm thinking it doesn't matter. I'm thinking it doesn't matter, but it used to always be two. At least from all the Windows work that I've done in the past, it used to be 2. So I actually don't know. This might be a window. Yeah. It's just redundant, and I guess you don't need it anymore. So maybe Windows just got smart about that. So yeah, good catch. You can type CMD from the empty space. Yes. So someone taught me that. I think you can do this. Which is helpful. Like, I think you can go somewhere like into my documents, and then I can go right here and type in like CMD, and it'll open up like a command prompt right here, which is pretty dope. You can also do this. You can also just right click. If you want to bring up a command prompt somewhere in your file explorer, you can right click and click open in terminal if you're on Windows 10 or 11, and it'll open it up right where you are. And so it'll show you C, users, Abrooks, documents. That's actually the location of this directory right here. Even though it's not showing that up here, that's the full path there, which is confusing. There is, for Windows versus Linux or Mac, it can be confusing because Windows uses backslashes. So they do C backslash, and then they'll go like program files. And then they'll go backslash, and they'll go Steam backslash. So the backslash is what you're using to represent a different that you're heading to another branch in that tree. And on Linux, it actually uses forward slashes. So that's the root, and so it might be home / Abrooks / Steam /bin. So that can be very confusing. I wouldn't stress over those differences. I would just know whenever you are looking at file paths, if you ever have to work in Windows, if you ever have to work in Linux, be aware that the delimiter separating these folders is it's a slash in both cases, but in Windows it is a backslash. In Linux it is a forward slash. Definitely annoying, super duper annoying. Yeah, that can be very annoying. All right, so absolute starts at the root of the file system. Remember, root on Windows is the C colon / The root on Linux or Mac OS is the /, and then relative is relative to where you are. Let me show you let's talk about relative really quick. White background. That's too little. That's better. Okay, let's talk about relative file path. So relative file path, if I'm on a system and it starts at /, and from down there it goes to their other folders called home, and let's say there's /var. Let's say there's also /games. And then let's maybe in the games folder, maybe there's a folder called, sports games. Let's say there's one called shooting games. And maybe there's one called like puzzles. And home, let's say we have /documents. Let's say we also have music. And inside of documents, let's say you have a file called book report. And let's say you have a directory in here called Spark Notes. Okay. So let's talk about absolute versus relative here. Let's do some examples. The absolute file path. Let's say I wanted to get to, let's say I wanted to know the path to the Spark Notes directory. Okay. The absolute path to the Spark Notes directory is /. Okay. So we start at the root /. And then to get to it, we can only take one path here. So the next place we have to go, we can't get to it from var. we can't get to it from games. We've got to go to home first. Okay, so we'll start a slash and then we'll go to home. All right, and from home, where do we got to go? If we go down and go to music, if we go to music, we can't get to anything else. So we've got to go over to documents. All right, so then we'll go home, documents. All right, from documents, I can go straight to Spark Notes. From documents, I can go to Spark Notes. All right, so this is the absolute path for the Spark Notes directory. It will always be this. Unless I move it, this is the absolute path. No matter where I am on the system, if I use the absolute path, this is what I will enter every single time. It will never not be this. But let's say I wanted to use the relative path. Remember, relative is relative to where you are right now. So if I was in the slash directory already, if I was right here in the root of the system, it would actually, the relative file path for this would actually be home / documents / Spark Notes. The only difference here being that I didn't use the slash. I didn't start from the root of the system. I'm already at the root of the system, but relative to where I was already at the root, so I can go straight to the home directory, then the documents, and the Spark Notes. I don't have a slash here. So they look very similar, but this one's absolute, this one's relative. But let's say I was over at, let's say I was over in the games. Let's say I was over in the games. Let's say we're here. Let's say we're right here in the games directory. We're over there right now, and we decide that we need to access or move to the Spark Notes directory. The way that we would have to get there is we'd actually have to go backwards. We haven't learned how to go backwards yet, but the way that we would have to get there is we can't move over to the home directory from here. All of these things are at the same level. I know the way I drew it makes it seem like I can go up and over, but you can't. All of these things right here, these are on the same, all these are on the same level. And so I cannot move from games over to home. For me to move over to home, I actually have to go back up. I've got to go back up to slash. Then I can go into home. And from home, then I can go down to documents. And then from documents, I can go down to Spark Notes. So the relative path, relative to where I am if I'm in games, is actually, the way that you go back is 2 dots. Okay, so I'm going to go ... This is going to take me back up to the root of the system. And then from the root of the system, I can go to home. Then I can go to documents. Then I can go to Spark Notes. So that is a relative path. Let's say I was in music. All right, let's say I was in music. Well, the way that I have to get to Spark Notes is I've got to go back up to home. Then I can go to documents. Then I can go to Spark Notes. So I would go back up 1. And now I'm already in home. That puts me in home, so I don't need to go into home. And so I'm in home, so I can go straight to documents. And then I can go to Spark Notes. It can be pretty confusing. We'll take our time with this. We'll go slow. We'll talk about it a million times. But this is what's hard for people. This, like, a lot of times your application, the thing that you're building, will be super dependent upon the file paths of other files. And you'll see a lot of these. You'll see something that says like ... slash ... slash user, or slash like config slash, credentials. And so basically, wherever the file that you're working out of is, it's looking for a file called credentials, but it's in 1 directory back, 2 directories back, 3 directories back, and then it goes into a directory called config, and it's looking for credentials. Again, this is a relative path. It gets tough to work with. It gets confusing when you're just looking at it, but it's all about being able to follow this tree up here. It's all about being able to just traverse the tree to find out what you want to use. All right, let me go to this next part and then we'll take a little break before we do some practice and dive in a little bit farther. We've talked about most of this already. So commands over clicking. When we're learning our commands, we are doing, actually, I take that back. Let's take a break. Let's take a 5-minute break. Let's take a break before we do this. Cool. Go to the bathroom, go get some water or something, and then we'll dive into the next piece. We had an issue where there was an ampersand in the password. They couldn't say to replace it. Needed an escape character. Yep, that'll do it. Double backslash is for accessing servers. That makes sense. Not the local host. I've never seen it as double backslash for local machines. That makes a lot of sense. Yes, localhost is just a server that's really close to you. You are correct, not wrong at all. I never combine with path. I would then put the path to make it that way. Such a bad code practice. Put absolute path, and if it breaks, yeah. So for programming, a lot of times you actually don't like. So yes, I usually tell people to do absolute path always. This is not the case for coding projects, and the reason being is because if we use the absolute path, and maybe I write this thing and you're going to clone it and try to make it work, your structure, wherever you're working on it at, it means you have to work out of the exact same place that I was working out of for this thing to work. So relative file paths, allow us to package up all of our files in a folder. And if we use the relative file path to kind of move around that folder, then it doesn't matter what system someone's working on. It will be able to access the correct files that it needs because they're already a part of the folder. So it can be weird. And again, I generally like to use absolute file paths, but you do need relative file paths in a lot of situations. Will coding in containers fix that issue? It would. Containers solve problems like that. Yes, it would. Yep, throwing it into a container would help solve that problem. Yes, 100%. It's okay to be totally lost. A lot of this won't make sense until we start doing some of it hands-on. All we're doing right now, all the things that we've talked about, is basically on your computer. If someone told you to go open up your, let's say you had a resume on your computer, you would know how to open that thing up. You would go to it, maybe it's in your documents, and you would go to your documents, and maybe you had a resume file here, and you say, great, you want to see my resume? And you double click on it and your resume opens up. Or if you were going to email it to somebody, you would open up your documents and you would attach that file. What we're talking about right now, all we're talking about right now is when you're coding, when you're programming, you're interacting with your computer in a little bit different way. And so the way that you have to know, like, you can't just click on your file here and pick the file you want. You have to specify its location. Okay, and so if you actually click, let's say this test right here, I'm gonna rename it. I'm gonna rename this test file to resume. Let's say this was our resume that we were working with. You can actually go to show more options, maybe properties. Maybe that's not where I wanted. But if I'm coding, if I'm programming, if I want to access my resume from the command line, I can't click on it. I can't go into my file explorer and click on it. I have to know how to get to it on the file system. Okay. And so we haven't done any hands-on with the file system yet, so it's okay to be lost. But I've got to know that if I want to get to my resume, that it's in my documents folder. So I got to be able to find out where my documents are. So luckily I'm already in my documents here. And when I do an ls, I can see my resume.txt is right here. And so knowing how to get to something from the command line is important, and how to reference where it is, because I can still reference this resume from somewhere else. Let's say I was in, What's here? Let's say I was in my favorites, a completely different folder. Even if I'm in a whole different place, I could still reference my resume file if I needed to, because I know that thing is in, let's see, type. I know it's in C, colon. I know it's in, what else is in C? Users. A Brooks. I know it's in documents and resume.txt. So if I ever want to access this thing, I know that its location is here. I know, wait, let me make this larger. I know that its location is right here. And so mostly, conceptually, what we're trying to do, I'm not expecting you to know exactly how to find out what that path is, but I want you to know that there's a way to specify where something is on your computer. And it's the same, like, it really is the same thing that you're doing when you're clicking around. We're just learning how to specify it from the command line. And we're gonna practice it. We're actually gonna do it. We're not just gonna talk about it. But it is okay to be lost. Completely okay to be lost. You'll be, that's one of the most interesting things. Remember we said at the very beginning, one of the skills that you want to get is being okay being lost. You know, don't let being lost right now allow you to not get anything out of the class. Keep listening, keep watching, keep trying to think through the problems, keep trying to think through the pieces. Some things are going to click, some things you'll have to go through the extra materials. I have extra materials to help you understand this. Yeah, so let's actually, before we go to the next set of slides, let's actually hop in to VS Code. So I'm going to open up VS Code because, again, for this class, we're going to be using VS Code, and we can do just about everything through VS Code. But when I go to open up, let's say I want to open up a folder to start working on a project. I think I might have put something in our documents last time, so I might click on documents. I didn't, maybe I didn't do anything. Okay, so it actually doesn't look like I have anything. But what I'll do is let's say I'll make a new, in documents, I'm gonna make a new folder. New folder, and I'm gonna call this project. And I'm gonna open up this project folder. All right, if I open up the terminal here, if you go to terminal, new terminal, it's going to take me to the command line interface. If you're on a Mac, it'll actually open up, yours, Linux. It'll open up a terminal. This opens up command PowerShell for me because I'm on Windows, but I can switch it up, but I'll leave it here for now. When I do, take a look at this. It opened it up at C, users, A Brooks, documents, projects. That's the folder that I actually just opened up in VS Code. I just opened that up. And actually, let me move this back to the right, because yours doesn't look like this. Yeah, remember I just opened up, I made this new projects folder and I opened that up. This is the file path for it. And that is, when we're writing code, we'll have to, like, let's say we made a bunch of files inside of here. If we were gonna reference those files from the command line, which we might need to do, we need to understand the concept of this file path right here, okay? And so we'll be using them a lot. You'll be using this command line and everything else you see here, the GUI, you'll use them in tandem. You'll use them together. Thank you for showing us the LAH flag. Use today, we're trying to install an SDK in Python. Perfect. Hey, there we go. Even if that's all you learn, I'm happy for it. Definitely happy for it. I actually can open up a terminal in VS Code. Yep, that's dope. What about when you don't know the location of the file you're looking for? Great question, Spinach Kale. Yes, this is trickier. This is a trickier thing. This is when you need to get more Linux skills, or Windows skills. But there are tools you can use from the command line for that. There's find is a tool, and actually I think I put it in the slides. Not something we're gonna spend a lot of time on today. We might touch on it a bit, but there's find commands, the same way in Windows where you could go to the file explorer here and search your documents for something, which doesn't work that well, to be honest. there are better tools from the command line that allow you to find what you need and putting together commands. So if you want to learn more about that, again, the Linux class that we do on Thursdays is where you want to come to, because that's going to teach you more about that. What we're learning right now is just the bare basics, so that when we start coding, you're not completely lost on what some of the things that we're doing from the command line, because we will be using the command line to do certain things like actually run our application. How in depth do the find and grep commands go? Like, how specific do you need to be? So one, they take in some special characters. They take in some regular expressions, so that you can kind of be broad with your search terms. You know, how in depth, you can keep it real simple. You can find a specific file name. If you know the name of the file name, you can do exactly that. Or you can link them together and find every single file that's in a certain directory that has references to another file. Maybe you're trying to figure out, you know, a file that you know it's got some information inside of it. You can use grep to find out information inside the file, and you can return all the different files that have information about those things. So yes, you can do fuzzy searches. You can do fuzzy searches. You can put together commands that find a subset of data rather than just a specific thing. So if you're unsure, you can do that. All right. The next part. No. Bookmarks, not bookmarks. History. All right. Sorry, I told you I'm trying to get my energy back. Really trying to get my energy back. I saw a lot of cool performances though. That was dope. I haven't been at a concert in so long, so that was exciting. What would those command lines be in Mac OS? I've been trying to use some of the stuff in the terminal while listening, but I'm probably not using the right command. SurfKid, if you open up your terminal application, all the commands that we've done so far should work. ls should work, mkdir should work. We're about to go over some specific commands right now. These should all work for you. All these should work for you, no problem. I don't think we've done any Windows specific commands quite yet. I have called out the Windows specific commands. Luckily, fortunately enough, this used to be a much bigger problem in the past. We would have to spend a lot of time differentiating the commands. Windows has gotten better, and there's a lot of overlap in the commands, and so you don't always have to use different ones anymore, which is super duper helpful. But commands over clicking, we're not doing anything fancy. When we're working inside of the CLI, we aren't doing anything different. And I'm gonna show it to you side by side. We are simply issuing commands from the command line rather than clicking on things, okay? So we're using our keyboard rather than our mouse. It's not special. It's exactly, we're just using our keyboard instead of our mouse. So first things first, we talked about file pathing and how do you get here or there? How do you specify where a file is? Let's learn about some other tools. Let's learn about some other things that help us understand how to use that properly. Let's learn about other ways to help figure out where the heck we are. The first one is PWD. How do I find out where I am? So if I enter the command line, if I just open up my terminal, or I just open up command prompt, or I just open up PowerShell. Let me open up PowerShell so I can actually make it larger. Actually, yeah, so this is PowerShell. If I want to see where I am, fortunately, it tells me right here. But the PWD command in Linux, I'll show it to you in both, so you can actually see how they differ. But the PWD command will show your present working directory, okay? This will show you where you currently are on the command line, all right? So if I'm interfacing with my computer from the command line, let me go back to VS Code. It already tells me there, but if I type in PWD, it's telling me I'm in C users A Brooks document project. Excellent. I'm in the projects directory. We knew we're going to work in our project. So we open up the projects folder. This makes sense. One of the things I see people do the most is they'll come into VS Code and they'll open up a different folder and they'll start working out of another folder. They'll create a new folder and they'll start working out of it. But the one that's opened up here will be different. And then they'll try to go into their command prompt and or their terminal, and they will attempt to run the application. Let's say I did something like this. Let's say I was in project, and let's say I made a new folder called new game. And inside of this new game folder, whoops, that was a new file and not a new folder. So I can click this new folder button, and I'm gonna call it new game. So I made a new folder, and then inside of this new game folder, let's say I made a file called newgame.go. All right, so I made this new Go file, okay? And you see it opened up right here. Here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna create a little Go app real quick. Import. And I'm gonna print line, and I'm gonna print this is a new game. So this is basically our hello world application. You don't need to do this part. I'm just showing you an example of something real quick. So you might be doing a project or something, and you go off and you make a Go application. Okay, so that's what I just did. I opened up my project folder, and that's where I'm working out of. And in the project folder, I created a new folder called new game and newgame.go. What people will do is they'll say, cool, I set it up. I wrote my code. They'll open up a terminal, and the way that you run Go code is you do go run the name of the file. We learned this last time. We're gonna spend more time with it. And I try new game.go. I see this so much. It says create file, newgame.go. The system cannot find the file specified. All right, it can't find the file specified. Well, I just created a new file here. I just created it. I created newgame.go. Why can't it find it? Well, again, the computer has to know. You got to specify things exactly where they are. It can't try to run this file if it doesn't know where it is. Yeah, I called it by name, but if it's not, if I didn't tell it where to look, it doesn't know where to look. So right now, when I do go run newgame.go, newgame.go is actually a relative file path. It's actually a relative file path. I know that seems weird, but yes, go run takes in an argument that's the file path to the file that you want to run. And if I say newgame.go, it's saying that it thinks that this means this file is right here. It thinks it's right where I currently am right now. Exactly. You got to be very explicit. Computers are dumb. So if I do an ls, is this file here? No, this file isn't actually here. All that's here is this new game folder that I created, okay? And the file that I want to run is actually inside that new game folder. So I've got to understand file paths, because I have to say, oh, okay, it can't run this. When I do go run, it can't find the file because I'm not telling it where to find it. The location that it's at is go run. I actually don't even know if this works with Go. This should work, but this is not how people work. Well, at least this is not how I go with it. But first I'll do newgame.go, the folder new game. Okay. And then inside of new game, there is newgame.go. New game. I cannot type. So now I gave it the full file path. Okay, we haven't learned about the dot yet, so you can ignore that. I'll actually remove it, and I wonder if Windows, this should still work if I remove it. So first, go run, go look in new game first, and then the file that I want to run is inside of that new game folder. So now if I do it, look at that. It successfully runs, and it says this is a new game. So now it can find the file because I told it where the file was. It needs to know exactly where to go look to run this file. It can't run a file by name. It's got to know exactly where it is. And so I told it it's in new game go. And I see this all the time. You open up VS Code in one folder, you start building things in a different folder, and you try to open up the terminal and run it, and it says, hey, file not found, and people get super lost. Like, I don't know what's going on. I created it. I don't know why I can't find it. It should be there. I saved it. It's because you've got to understand what's happening here. It's in a different location than where you're currently at. You've got to tell it exactly where to look. Crazy Carlo, thank you so much for the Twitch Prime sub. Appreciate the support. Why is Edge web browser using so much memory? Ridiculous, like 11. I mean, it'll use as much as you allow it to use. It is, it's Chromium based. Chrome will take up as much as you allow it. It's pretty crazy. All right. Let's hop into the commands so we know. So PWD, how do I know where I'm at? Again, you can even in the last example that we just did, if you would have opened it up here, and again, if you're confused, you type in PWD, it gives you back the full absolute path of where you are. Okay? So it tells me, hey, you're at C, users, A Brooks, document projects. That's your current working directory. That's where you are. That's super duper helpful. If I did this in Linux before as well, if I do PWD here, PWD returns to you your present working directory. That's how you figure out where on the directory tree that you are. Pretty important thing to do. I want to know where I am. I type in PWD. It tells me exactly where I am. After that, once you know where you are, everything is good, but how do you see what's in the current location that you're at? How do you see the files and directories that are inside of the directory that you're currently inside of? Well, that is with the ls command or the dir command. Both of these work in Linux or Windows, okay? Now, I don't see many people using dir. Ls, if you're on some older versions of Windows, ls might not work for you. I think if you're a command prompt, ls might not work for you as well. But ls is the command that's going to list out what you need. Dir works as well. Dir works in Linux as well. So, I could type in dir here, which feels weird, and it'll give me similar output to ls. You can see they are different, but they're both used to kind of list what is here. And again, if I go into PowerShell, I can do an ls or I can do a dir, and they do the same thing. So this is both Windows and Linux. ls is going to be the one that I want you to remember, not so much dir. So PWD to find out where you are, ls to see what contents are there, what files and what directories are there. Because again, the reason why you need to know what's here is because in the directory tree, this is what you have immediate access to. Okay, so from here, from where I currently am, I have access. I can go straight into documents or downloads or favorites or contacts or OneDrive or music. I can go straight into those directories, okay? So from where I am now, those are the next level of directories I can go to, and so it does help. The color difference here, actually, these blue ones are, and they're different on the way that your color scheme, there's a bunch of factors to this, but the blue ones are directories. Okay, blue ones are directories. And the red here, these aren't normal files. These are archive files. So this is a zip file and this is a tar.gz file. So they're archived format files. And so they are shown in red. So just imagine them all being zip files. If I made another file that was just a normal like text file, it should be white, I believe. Yeah, it's white. So the colors actually, when they're turned on, they actually help you differentiate between the different file types a little bit more easily. LDS is CGI, NPS. Yep. Can you do a get alias for those PS commands so we can see what the native commandlets are? Yeah, I can. I think that's going to confuse people for now. I think that's something we should do in the Linux course, but maybe not right now. Where's that function to the operating system for Windows? Yeah, the colors are being displayed. Everything should be white normally. Yeah. Yeah, I think that'll be a little more confusing because right now we're just trying to understand how to access some of these things and learning some of the basic commands so you can get around the command line. Because again, the focus of this course is still programming. And again, I know people are lost right now. I know some people are lost. It's okay. Completely okay. We're covering it now. I'll have resources for you. You're not, this does not mean you're not going to be able to program if you don't understand these concepts yet, but it's something that we do have to go over. All right, so you learned your first 2 Linux commands. pwd, where the heck, that tells me where the heck I am. ls shows me what's here in this directory, what's available to me. All right, so that's how I know where I am. Now that I know where I am, let's figure out how I move to where I want to move to. Shrewd Food, thank you so much. That makes me feel very good. Thank you. Thank you, Amazing Raven, for agreeing. I appreciate it. So let's move. Now that we know where we are, let's move into a new space. So we know where we are. How do we move to a new directory that's in the tree? How do we get to a new space? Well, we just change into that new directory, okay? The way that you do it is you just change into that directory. And the command for that is the cd command. CD stands for change directory. So that's an easy command to remember usually. And it takes in an argument, which is whatever your path is to the new directory, relative or absolute. You can give it a relative path or absolute path. You need to know where another directory is on the computer, and you cd into that directory. So you change directory into whatever directory you want to change into. So the easiest way we can see that is, I'm on the command line here. I'm in the projects directory. That's what's open in my Explorer. Remember, in my projects directory, I created a new directory called new game. That's right here. I can move into that directory if I want using the cd command. The way that I do it is with cd, which is change directory, and then I give it the name of the directory or the path to the directory that I want to access. New game is right here. So I can just say new game. I don't have to do all the C and everything else. I don't have to do an absolute path. New game's right here. So I can just say cd new game. And when I do that, if I type in pwd again, check that out. Look where I am. I'm not in the project directory anymore. I'm now in the new game directory. So now I'm inside of here. I'm inside this new game directory, okay? If I do an ls, you can see newgame.go is here. Newgame.go right here. And again, let's do this in Linux as well so you can see it. I do pwd. I'm in the projects directory. That's this one up top. If I do an ls, I see that there's a new game directory here. If I want to move into it, I change directory into it. cd, new game, and I hit enter, and I do pwd again. Look at that. I'm now in the new game directory. And you can also see here, this is called your prompt. This usually has information about where you are. And so my full file path is actually right here as well. But yours might not have that. Most people's does, but I usually don't call it out when we're just doing some light learning like this because some people's doesn't. But CD is how you get into it. If I wanted to move into a different folder, like let's say, instead of documents, I wanted to move into my pictures. Now you don't know where my pictures album, or you don't know where my pictures folder is, but I do. And so basically it's inside of this A Brooks folder. There's a bunch of common folders that you're used to seeing on your computer: videos, documents, downloads, pictures. Okay, and I know it's in here. I know it's in my users folder. And if you want to see it, the way that you see stuff is with ls. And remember that ls command takes in a parameter, an argument, which is the file path in which you want to see the stuff at. So I can say, hey, let me take a look at Mount C users A Brooks. And so that's just this section here. I basically am going to do an ls. I want to see what's right here. So I'm going to look at it and take a look at this. I got a lot of stuff here. I have app data. I have application data, contacts, cookies, desktop, documents, downloads, favorites. Let me show you something. Let me show you something real exciting. And this is going to help you see that you're not doing anything special when you're working on this stuff. Let's put this to the right. And I'll start in PowerShell. If I were to go into Vdras, yes, we do more advanced topics. So Mondays and Wednesdays. Mondays is Camp Code. It's 22-week introductory programming course. On Tuesdays, it's a 22-week introductory cloud computing course with AWS. On Thursdays, we're doing a DevOps anthology course. It's longer than 22 weeks, but it's a full DevOps. It'll cover all the DevOps concepts. So if you're into containerization, more cloud stuff, systems administration stuff, we'll do some Kubernetes, we'll do some Docker, we'll do some scripting, we'll do CI/CD, we'll do all that stuff. That happens there. But about maybe another 6 or 7 weeks into this program, we'll actually start another set of series that will be more advanced concepts. So we used to have 3 levels of concepts, beginner, intermediate, and advanced. We'll start sprinkling in the advanced stuff, and people don't want long-term advanced stuff. Like, people who are coming for the advanced stuff want to come in, get what they need, and get out. And so the advanced stuff is going to be broken up into much smaller, like 3-part series, like a pretty advanced concept of like actually getting something important done and then getting out. We have lots of different options for that. But yeah, yes, we have an advanced Go. We actually will have an advanced Go class. Like a pretty advanced, like we have a lot of Go, because I like Go so much. I have a lot of Go content. And so there will be intermediate and advanced classes for that. Sorry, not Mondays and Wednesdays, Mondays, Tuesdays, Thursdays. Yeah, Mondays, Tuesday, Thursday. Yeah, Docker's dope. It's dope. Yeah, for most devs, learning the CLI portion can sometimes basically be the equivalent of knowing where the entrances, exits, cafeterias, parking lot, and elevators of the office building are. Coding is more like getting to work at the office. Yes, that's good, Unknown. Yes, I agree with that. You don't have to be an expert on the command line, but you got to know how to get around a bit, for sure. Yeah, I like that a lot. Just curious, are there entry-level Go jobs? So there are. They're not. The entry-level Go jobs, I don't think, are the equivalent to other entry-level courses or entry-level jobs. I think it's very much like the DevOps-y thing. Like, entry-level Go, I think they're expecting that you've been somewhere and done something, which is weird because it's not entry level. I think we think of entry level different than what it really is. Entry level doesn't mean no knowledge. I do think entry level should. I think it's dumb for someone to ask for you to have 2 years of experience at the entry level. But entry level doesn't mean no knowledge. Entry level means, I think it means no professional experience. And I think what people are usually expecting you to know for entry level Go role is a little bit more advanced than a lot of other entry level places. But yeah, Execute, welcome. Good to see you. It's been a while. Life's amazing. The kiddos amazing. That was actually, I hadn't been away. Well, we've been away from the baby a few times, but this time in particular, I think because she's getting older and much bigger personality, like I really missed her. We just gone a weekend. Literally left Friday night. We're supposed to come back this morning, and like I missed her so much. It was fun. It was fun, like seeing her, and I feel like she's grown in just 2 days, 2 or 3 days, which is pretty wild. But everything's great. If you have Go projects, will it be enough? I think it's always a tough question because projects are easy to do. Understanding the project and understanding what you were supposed to get out of the project, that's another thing. A lot of times people don't understand they never got what they were supposed to understand from the project, and they don't know how to speak about those things. And so, again, it's about your ability to understand and speak about what you understand. So yes, I think the projects will be enough to get you callbacks, but I'm not sure it'll be enough to get you through the interviews unless you really picked up on what it is that those projects were supposed to be teaching you. You need internships, hard to get hired for junior roles, very competitive. It is very competitive. Internships do help a ton. We haven't left our kid overnight yet. I understand. She's 3 now. Completely understand. we went like, we're super fortunate to have one of the grandparents. All the grandparents are, well, not all the grandparents, but we have a very supportive grandparents crew. But we're fortunate enough to have one super close to us, and she's been doing some of the day to day, which has been super helpful. And she just likes being over there. So we have someone that we trust. All right. So if I'm doing something on the computer, I can do the same things from the command line because I'm interfacing with the computer in two different ways, but they're both just interfaces for the computer. So let's say I go into my documents. I'm into my documents folder over here. I'm going to CD into documents over here on the left. I'm going to do a dir. Look at this. These are the same files. .vs code, project directory, Aaron.txt. I know it doesn't say .txt here, but it is a text file. You can actually see the file extension right here, text document. But take a look at it. I'm looking at the same thing. Okay, what I'm doing over here on the command line is not some special place. It's not some special thing, something weird. It is the exact same. It's the exact same thing that I'm doing over here on the right. I'm just interfacing with my computer in a different way. What's up, Be More Pun? What's up, man? It's been a while. Good to see you. Good to see you. How does anyone get experience then? We will talk about that. That's definitely something we'll talk about. It is the hardest part. Getting the first role in tech is the hardest thing to do. Out of everything you'll ever do in your tech career, getting the first role will be the hardest. There are lots of ways to go about getting the first role. And if you're willing to fight for that first role, I'm telling you, from then on, everything gets a ton easier. How does anyone get experience? That is the $1 million question. For sure, there are options for getting internships. There are options for getting that first role. I work with people all the time who find entry level roles without having any other experience. They're out there. It is competitive, and it's going to make that first hunt tiring. I'm gonna be 100% honest with you. Your first job search is going to be tiring. It's going to be hard. But again, I think one of the things that people miss out on is, when you're learning, as you're learning, picking up, being able to speak about the things that you build. If you go do a tutorial and it has you build a REST API, no one cares that you have the code to run a REST API. No one cares about that. What they want, the reason why that project matters is because hopefully when you built that, you started to understand some things. You started to realize why you were building it, and you started to figure out some pitfalls and some things, you learned along the way of building this thing that can help you build things better in the future. And a lot of people just go through and do the project and build the thing so they have something to show. Having something to show is, that being the only thing is tough. When you lack experience, your best bet is to be able to talk your stuff. Your best bet is to be able to talk your stuff, okay? You need to be able to really talk through and understand the things that you've done. You don't need to have done everything, but the things that you have done, being able to show a deep understanding of those things is the most helpful thing. And then, yes, being able to sell yourself 100%, since it is 100% right. We will spend time talking about that. Getting the job is an important piece of it. It's a little bit of a game. Figuring out where your skills lie that stand out is up to you. But yeah, coding's going great. Coding's going excellent. We're still learning a lot. Still doing a lot of things. Open up a lot of doors for people and myself. Like it's the reason I hadn't been streaming. The reason why you haven't seen me in a while is because I was actually got to do an in-person coding bootcamp here in Baltimore. From the opportunity came about from the streams, and it was super dope. I really loved it. Learned a lot from it. Hoping to do it better next time. Hoping to do a lot better next time. But it was fun. Way different from this. A lot different from this, but pretty fun. Oh, I need to get where to sign up. I'll actually shoot you a message when they're doing the next one. Look up Betamore, Betamore. That's a nonprofit that we partnered with to do that. But it was dope. It was we had about 16 people. So far, I think 5 people have gotten roles. A bunch of other people are in the process of interviewing right now. It didn't end that long ago. Maybe 6 weeks ago, it ended, and people are interviewing. I'm actually going to be helping somebody out tomorrow with kind of just understanding a take-home assignment and things like that. But yeah, it was dope. I wish they weren't, it wasn't a full-time boot camp. It was 2 days a week, 2 to 3 days a week, and only like 3 hours in the evenings, then every other Saturday, like morning. So it's Monday and Wednesday, like 3 hours, and then every other Saturday morning. And so this wasn't a full-time thing. People have other stuff to do. And so I think for pretty much everybody made it through the whole thing. Usually a free program, people quit. People didn't quit. It was dope. People didn't quit. People went through the whole thing. And we're talking about some people in the class started out not knowing how to use a computer well at all, like having to spend time, teaching people how to use a computer and like just comfortably get around a computer. And so, it was exciting. It was super helpful in understanding some of the pitfalls that could keep people from being able to learn this stuff. I'm not someone who believes, it is, I try my best not to say, hey, if I did it, you can do it, because I don't think that's true. I've had a lot of advantages other people haven't had. People are coming from different backgrounds. People have seen different things. I had a computer in the house when I was younger. So basic computing tasks, are second nature to me, but to other people who didn't have that, there are lots of barriers, and so kind of learning that was super duper helpful and understanding how to approach some of these things. But it was dope. It was dope, and we hope to continue to do more of those, learn a little bit more, to be able to open that stuff up to more people. Because, like I said, my thing is, I think this information, like tech, like the world's gonna run on this stuff. It should be given away. I actually don't know how as a society we haven't realized that most of the learning that we need to do for these jobs, like why do people have to spend a ton of money to become doctors? Don't we want people to become doctors so that we can be healthier? Don't we want people to become nurses? Don't we want people to become all of these fields, these professions that will help us? Like it doesn't make any sense to me. Why you would have to pay an astronomical amount? Like, sure, maybe I get a little bit. Yes, teachers should be paid more. I am 1,000% so y'all might not like to hear this, but I agree. My dad was a teacher for over 30 years. Take more of my tax if you're actually going to give it to the teachers, and invest it in the schools and education. Take more tax money from me. I will pay more money if we're gonna put it in the right places. Like I don't get it. I really don't get it. But yeah, so they put up with so much for such little pay. Like it's wild. If you all haven't gotten to get into, maybe if you, yeah, I go on a whole tangent. I'm gonna back up a little bit. But yeah, teachers, any teachers out there, just know that I appreciate you. There are people who appreciate you. You deserve more. You definitely deserve more. One day, hopefully, we make good on making you feel more appreciated, especially with these badass kids. These kids are bad. These kids are bad. I don't want to call them bad, but you're dealing with hostile environments, hostile kids, hostile parents. Sucks. The dot for when moving to a new directory, the dot stands for right here. The dot stands for when you're talking about a file, a directory, a file path. Yes. How do you define where I am right now? The way that you define where I am right now is simply a dot. So if I were trying to go into this project directory that's here, I could either CD into project if I want, and that would take me there. But I could also specify that path as CD dot / project. And the reason I can do that, remember, a relative file path does not start with a slash. It starts at the root of the system. This is a relative file path. The dot says start from here, then go into the project directory. So those two things are the exact same thing. So a single dot says right here. This is not to be confused with a dot right here in the file name. This means it's hidden. This means this file or folder is hidden in Linux. But whenever you see it in a file path like this says right here, right where I currently am right now. DJ BSEC, what's good? How you doing? What's up, Sec IT guy? Raid time, let's go. Let's go. Good to see you as well. Oh, dope. I'm glad you said that because I completely missed the raid alert. Thank you so much, Sec IT guy, for coming through. First off, shout out. I hope you all had a good stream tonight. What were you? I'm very interested to know what you're doing over there. I'm not gonna lie to you. I know a bit about security. And you know, I've done lots of IT stuff too. But I'm bad. I'm lazy when it comes to security. It's not good, but I'll admit it. I will admit it in front of everybody. You know, you got to be honest. But I hope you're doing some dope stuff. And you know, maybe I need to come watch to learn how to do some things correctly. You were on the tangent of relative versus actual use of period. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. So you can use the period if you want, for relative file paths. You don't have to use it. Same thing for Linux. If you're on Linux, you can do the same thing. It means right here. It means the local location. Security is easy. Just unplug it. Agreed. When things get wild, unplug it, blow away the whole OS, start over again. When the raid happened, I heard you say, "Dot, I wasn't looking and thought you were doing some local file inclusion." If I'm in a file in my terminal, how do I return back to the root folder in Mac OS? Okay, so if you want to go back to the root, so when you say root folder, do you mean the real root folder, or do you mean the folder that it's in? So to get to the root folder of the system, we know that the root of your Unix system is always / right? So the way that you get back to the root folder is to change directories to it. So if you want to get back to the root folder, you go CD /, and that will take you to the root folder. If I do a pwd to see where I am, /. If you were trying to get back to the folder that's above wherever you currently were, let's say you went into this projects folder like I did and you want to get back, CD .. will take you back a directory or up the directory tree one. That's what it'll do. Is this the second Linux class on Twitch? I missed the last class. No, yes. Oh, sorry. Is it still on Twitch? Yes, it is still on Twitch. It's still on Twitch. I think it's uploaded to YouTube, but not public yet, which I will make public tonight. I think I was just trying to make I was going to try to make fancy covers for all of them. I'm not going to do that because I do 3 a week. I'm just going to release them as is. So exclamation point VODs if you're trying to see that. But it is still on Twitch. It should be on Twitch for 60 days. Okay, that worked. Thanks so much. Perfect. All right. Let's see. What do we have? We have a few more slides here. So yeah, CD .. is how you back up. So if you want to go back up the directory tree, .. is how you go back. We saw that when we were talking about relative file pathing and how we kind of went back up that directory hierarchy. So that's pretty helpful as well. If you want to make a directory, you don't have, so especially for you all who are here to learn specifically how to code, again, these things are helpful, but you don't need to do these things from the command line. Might make you a little bit faster, but I definitely don't think this is a necessity for you because these are things that you can do elsewhere. As long as you understand kind of how to look and to navigate file paths, that's the most important part that you need. This is not the Linux course, because if you want to make a new folder, I can make a new folder right here. I can make a new folder right from VS Code. So I can go file, okay, not new folder there, but I can click this new folder button right here. This will make a new directory. In Windows, it's called a folder. In Linux, Unix, it's called a directory. Same thing, for all intents and purposes. So I can just do that here. But if you wanna do it from the command line, you can do it from the command line. So if I do mkdir, mkdir is the command that you use to create a new directory. Mkdir, you give it a name. So I'm gonna make a new directory here. What should I call it? I'm gonna call it mkdir. I'm gonna call it old game. We have a folder called new game. I'm gonna make a folder called old game. That's spelled wrong. And look, when I did that from the command line, look at this. It's over here. Why? Because again, when we interact with the command line, we're interacting with the same computer that you're interacting with when you're dealing with the graphical user interface. And so it's not a different place. Like opening up your terminal is not a different place. It is, you're still interacting with the same computer. And so this opened up a brand new folder for me, created a brand new, it's nothing in it, but it created a folder for me right here. And I could do mkdir test. And there's another one. And if I create a new folder here, called GUI folder, and I do an ls to see what folders are here. Look at that. Don't I see GUI folder right there? So it doesn't matter where you do it. They both will do the things that you need if you know what commands to issue, if you know what to do. So mkdir is how you create a folder. Now you know another command from the command line. But like I said, yes, I would like you to know as much command line knowledge as possible, but at the bare minimum, just having an understanding of the file paths is the most important piece here. You can actually go up several folders in the file structure by utilizing multiple strings like .. /.. You are correct. You can go back many. Like if I wanted to go, let's say I wanted to go back up to this directory, or let's say I want to go up to users. I could go cd .. So that'll take me from project back to documents. So if I do another /.. that'll take me from documents back to A Brooks. And if I do another /.. that'll take me from A Brooks back to users. If I do that, look at that, all the way back to users. So if I do pwd, I'm all the way back here. So you're correct. That's good to throw out there. If you want to keep going back, the .. is how you do it. So I'm gonna go back into A Brooks, back into documents, and back into project, so I can be there. Sympathy, hey, good to see you. Hope you're doing well. It's been a long time. I've lurked in a lot of your streams recently, so I've seen you. You haven't seen me, but it's good to see you. Hope you're doing really well. I use it every day, so can still use some practice. Yeah, but exactly. So if people don't know, first off, shout out. Again, if you're here if you want to learn different things, if you want to see people build some cool, fun stuff, check out Sympathy's stream. She does some amazing stuff here on Twitch. Very fun, learn a lot, build some cool things, games. I suck at everything game related, including playing them, even though I love playing video games. I'm not even good at playing them anymore. But yeah, head over and give a follow. Immerse yourself in the stuff. It's fun. Is being a developer like being part of a secret society brotherhood? Sometimes it's a little bit weird. Sometimes it is. Like, so I have my laptop has like a Go sticker and like a Vim sticker and a couple other things on the back, and I'll go places and like people see it and like, people will be like, I know what those are. Like, I know what you do. And I'm like, oh, okay, thanks. Like, it's weird, but it can be like a brotherhood. Some people, like any other brotherhood, there's some weird folks in it, and then there's some cool people in it. So I'm looking for a DevOps instructor at INE. If you're interested, I'm on socials. I'll check it out. I'll check it out. That's interesting. Well, I'm gonna follow up with you after this stream. Yeah. So Sympathy, I was actually the break I had was actually so I could teach an in-person boot camp. So that's why I was basically teaching an in-person boot camp a couple days a week. And also it was like the change up was nice. In person was also fun. It was also fun. So I am going to actually look for a way to kind of hybridize it a little bit, because we were actually streaming a little bit of that boot camp when it first started, but then there were some issues internally with bandwidth and stuff, so we couldn't continue to stream it because we had to go to hybrid model because of COVID and everything else. So it got a little bit weird, but I would like to do a hybrid like in-person stream thing. I think it would be dope. All right, let's finish up the last few little things. So you saw that whatever I do over here happens here. Whatever I do here happens here because I'm interfacing with the same thing. It isn't separate. That's why I always tell people also like, hey, hop into VS Code. You can do everything from there. It's okay. Don't let anyone make you feel weird about staying in here. But yeah, so we learned some new commands. You can make a directory. You can actually delete the directory as well. I don't have a slide for this, but just to show you that you can delete a directory as well. mkdir is for make directory, but if you want to remove a directory, I can get rid of test by doing this. Oh, armdir is one command, sorry. Armdir test, and it removes it. It will only work if the folder's empty. So if I try to remove new game, it won't let me delete it. So it's kind of safe if you use this armdir command. It says, hey, I cannot remove new game directory because it is not empty. So it won't remove, you can't use that command to remove a non-empty directory. But again, just giving you some more commands to kind of, build upon it. The interesting thing about the command line, it is a lot of memorization. You gotta, if you want to issue commands to the computer, you've got to memorize the commands that you would like to issue to the computer. So it is a lot of memorization on that end. But armdir will allow you to delete a directory. Other than that, all the rest of it, like there's like a couple slides left, and really I'm simply telling you about extra stuff. Bookmark a cheat sheet. There will be a cheat sheet that launches in the Google Classroom at the end of class. Yes, cheat sheet with all these commands. These are all extra. Okay, all these commands that are here, I'm about to show you some of them. They're all extra, mostly to pique your knowledge of the command line. I do not want, if you are here for the how to code class, okay, you're here because I want to learn how to code. Yes, the command line is important. Do not be stressed out about the stuff that's here. I'm giving you extra to pique your interest, to give you some things to practice long term. The only thing I want you to focus on, like I told you, was the file path portion. This choose your path section, 2 slides. I want you to understand that concept. It will come up over and over again as we're working on things. It'll come up over and over again. Okay, as we're learning Go, it'll come up over and over again. All the rest of it is just to round you out as a developer, to give you some extra skills. I'm introducing you to some things. So I told you where to focus. This stuff's extra. I want to go through it. The better you are at the command line, to a certain extent, the better developer you'll be. You don't need to be an expert command line wizard to be a good programmer, but the more skills you can pick up will be helpful. We're just going to go through a few more of these here. This is a good one though. We got to talk about tab completion, because this will help you do things faster from the command line. It will take you a long time to get the muscle memory down for this, but it is something that is cool. Yes, goes for GOLANG. Work from the home kitten. I just went with that. I saw the WF and I saw an H in there, but it wasn't the next letter. But yes, kitten goes for GOLANG. We're learning GOLANG in this class. Today we're just learning some command line stuff so that when we hop into the next class and we're running code, that people understand how I'm accessing files and understanding that we're entering in things on the command line. But tab completion. Now that we know about absolute paths, okay? Inside of, so there is we have a Go program in new game.go. Again, not a real Go program. It's just a Hello World app. Just Hello World. But just for example, let's imagine this is a game. This is like the location of this is long. It's a long file path to get here. Now, there's some easy ways to access this. If I want to say, if I want the file path for this, if I need the file path for some reason, VS Code is nice because look, you can right click it and do copy relative path or copy path. Okay. So copy path will give you the absolute path, which is nice. Control C, or I can copy the relative path, which can be helpful as well. Okay. So that's super duper helpful. So you don't ever have to guess when you're trying to learn here. You don't, You know, you're trying to learn here. You don't have to guess. You can right click, use your tools, and you can copy the path to know where it is. But let's say I was trying to specify this file and I knew the whole path here and I wanted to type it in. You all might see me do it and you might think I'm the fastest typer in the world. And we've already told you I'm not even close. But you might see me go Mount C, users, A Brooks, documents, project. Now, I didn't type, new game, newgame.go. You might say, whoa, he typed that fast. Cause like, look when I did, look how fast I typed project. Look how fast I typed new game. Look how fast I typed newgame.go. You know, speed of light. You didn't even see the letters going. Can I even, let's see, let me actually try to type that. New game. Wait. New. Okay. You know I'm a bad typist. But I'm not typing that quickly. That is something called tab completion. And tab completion is something I would like you to know about because it will make you better in the future. I don't know anyone who's been in the industry for a significant amount of time who hasn't picked up this skill because it's super duper helpful. But what it will do is it will do some text completion for you, okay? Tab completion allows you to use a tab character to complete file paths or directory strings or even file names and things using the tab key. And what it'll do is it will match on strings. It'll match on a list of characters. And so if I type in slash is the root of the file system. So let me actually go to slash. Let's look at the things that are in slash. These are the folders that are in the root of the file system. We've got bin, dev, home, lib, lib64, lost and found, mount. So if I do cd/m and I hit tab, nothing happens, okay? Nothing happens if I do cd/m and hit tab. But if I do mn and hit tab, it completes the T and it puts a slash here. What tab completion does is it looks at what directories are available to you, what files and what directories are available to you currently where you are. And it'll basically do a little pattern matching. And so when I typed in M and hit tab, it can't complete. It doesn't know what I want. It has to know exactly what you want. And so it doesn't know what I want. The reason why it doesn't know what I want is because there's a mount here, but there's also a media here. Okay, so when I type in M and hit tab, it can't auto-complete it for me because it's not sure what I want yet. I have to give it enough unique characters for it to know what I want. So if I type in ME and hit tab, it fills in media because this is the only option it could be. Couldn't be anything else. Nothing else here matches that. So if I type in ME, it knows if I hit tab, I must be looking for this media folder right here. So if I choose something that doesn't have any other letters, let's say T, for temp, if I type in T, it will autofill in temp because that's the only option it could be. If I type in L, it's not going to autocomplete because there's a lib64, a lib32, a lib64, a libx32. And so what's cool about this, there's also a lost and found. So watch this. If I type in O and hit tab, obviously, it finds the lost and found. But for the I, for the lib, if I hit I and hit tab, it fills in the B, okay? It doesn't know which one it is, but it fills in the B because these are the only possibilities it can be, and they all have the B in, they all have a B inside of them. So it fills in them as much as it can for me, and then from here I can, put an X and hit tab, and it's lib32. So it'll do it for each of these directories. So when I do cd/mount, so mn and hit tab, I can hit tab twice to see what's available to me. So I just hit tab twice and it told me I can do C. I can, so basically doing tab twice, basically is doing like an LS so that you can see what items are inside. And so C is a place I can go. So I'm gonna type in C and hit tab, that's the only option. I'll hit tab twice again. These are all the places I can go now. And so I need to go into, I think I was going into users. So if I do a capital U and hit tab, it fills in the users because that's the only thing that matters. In Linux, and in Mac OS, Linux, case matters, okay? It is case sensitive. A capital U is different from a lowercase u. So I could have a capital U users folder and a lowercase users folder. Windows is different, and Windows tab completion works differently. It will tab complete for you, but it's case insensitive, and it does, Windows does some things that I think are weird. Also, I think if you have ZSH as a shell, it does some weird stuff out of the box that I don't love, but it's fine. I'll show you how Windows acts in a second. But users, my username, if I don't know my username, I say all users, default public, A Brooks. So I'll do it A, and it fills that in. I'll hit tab twice to see what else is available to me now that I'm in the A Brooks folder. And then I can go into documents. All right, so check this out. Well, yeah, never mind. I'll just, DO. If I do DO and hit tab, it shows me that I have downloads or documents. I'll do documents, and then I'll go into projects folder. So tab completion, you will not know how to tab complete today. You won't be comfortable doing it today. I just want to show you what the concept of it is. It is something that took me years to just start doing. You forget it exists. You forget to do it. It saves you a lot of time. But yeah, this is VS Code. This is WSL though. Eternal Static Void. I am using the Linux portion of I am using WSL terminal in here, but this is just the VS Code terminal. So yeah, tab completion, something I want you to know about. You won't be a pro at that today. File operations, I'm actually not gonna do this for time's sake, but I am giving this to you just, again, something to practice. You can create new empty files the same way we made a directory. You can do a touch command. So if I'm in the projects folder. If I do a touch blackjack, let's say I was gonna make a blackjack Go game. Touch blackjack.go. That created an completely empty file for me right here. So touch is how you do that in Linux. On Windows though, I think I would do that differently. I think on Windows you got to do let me close one of these. I think I can do something like copy and then redirect it to a file name. So let me say like spades.go. Did that work? Yes, that did work. So in Windows, you can do something like this. On Windows, there's like 9 different ways to create a new file. So yeah, just Google how to create new files in Windows. But yeah, that's helpful. But just showing you these commands, remember, they do specific things. And so the more that you learn, the easier it is for you to interact with the computer from the command line. You don't have to. You can do just about everything not interacting from the command line, but it will make your life a little bit easier as you get a little bit better with it. Other than that, we learned about flags for sure, but this is the last thing that we need to know. These commands, if you're trying to get better at the command line, you're trying to understand what the heck is going on. How do I know what commands are available to me? How do I know about what flags I can use? How do I know what these things do? Well, there are 3 different ways to do this. The first is to Google it. I know some of you are cringing right now saying, why in the world would I Google it when I have man pages? Well, this is because reading technical documentation is hard. It is not an easy task to do. Understanding how to parse technical documentation is, in my opinion, a skill that you will learn over time. Googling it is going to be the most effective solution for you in the beginning. If you're going through a guide and it gives you some commands, you say, hey, let's say you're going through a tutorial and it tells you to use wget to download a file. You say, what is wget? That's what you do. All right, that is how you, and so what is wget command and how to use it? 12 examples. This is how you find answers in the beginning. Learn how to use Google, figure it out, to figure out what you need. Read through it, it'll give you some options, and it'll tell you. That's your first path. The real way, or there is a way to for the most part, natively get information about the tools that you're using. So let's say we want to continue with that same tool. something like wget. This is where you use something called a man page or a manual. Every command has a manual that you can use to find out how the heck it works. So if I do man, all right, and then type in the command that I want information for, so let's do ls. If I do man space ls, look at this. It starts to, right in the terminal, it gives me how to use it. This is already hard to read. Okay, it gives me a name and a synopsis, description, but it starts to give me flags down here. A lot of information. These get hard to read. And you got to use your arrows or the J and K key to get through here. You can't just use your mouse. And look, it's a bunch of information. And knowing how to parse and sort through this quickly can be tough, but it tells you what each of those flags does. So you saw me use like the LAH. Let's find the lowercase h. That's what makes it human readable. All right. And it tells you what each of those flags does. So if you want to know a flag that does something, this is how you find it, through a man page. But again, kind of hard to parse. You can do stuff like man wget. Each command will have one of these, okay? You will get to a point where it makes sense to you to read these, but it takes time. Yeah, tech docs are a skill I'm still building. 100%. It is not. I get so frustrated. People are always like, read they tell junior engineers or early career engineers, read the docs, just read the docs. Yes. So I actually do agree with that, only because I think you need to read the documents, to read the documentation, so that you build that skill, so that you start to understand how technical documentation is being presented to you. And once you get good at reading technical documentation, life does get easier. Like the way technical documentation is written, at first I was like, this is so hard to understand. This can't be useful. It is useful. It's absolutely useful. Go has lots of documentation. We will spend time learning how to go over Go's documentation. Nope, not GoDocs. GoDocs.io. Yeah, here we go. So things like, we've used format.println. We're using it right now, but there's tons of information about how to use this. This isn't even the whole thing, but there's tons of, we've used println. Look at this. This can be hard to understand. What the heck? I thought I would click println. Oh yeah. Println formats using default formats for its operands and writes to standard output. Spaces are always added, blah, 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 blah. Tells you a lot of information. Once you have built up enough knowledge, once you've built up enough, a good enough base, this stuff starts to make sense. It returns the number of bytes written and any write error encountered. It takes time to know what all that means. And they have this here. You might look at this and like, what the heck is this? This tells you a ton of information. Tells you exactly how to use it, tells you what it does, what information needs to go in, what information comes out, gives you an example of what it's done, how to use it, and what the output is. Very, very helpful. But again, not super helpful for anyone to just hop in and do. Go.dev. Yeah, they've changed their stuff a number of times. Yeah, there we go. That's the new pretty site for being able to find this stuff. There we go. But yeah, technical documentation. Yes, this is so much better. I like this. Thank you. Same page basically, but in a much prettier format. So let's go back down to print line. It's gonna be the same information. Print line. Here we go. Same thing, but in dark mode, which is better already. It takes time to learn these things. Don't be freaked out if you are going through a tutorial and they start showing you stuff like this. It's difficult. It's difficult. It can be hard. So Google it. There's lots of articles usually for the thing that you're trying to do that make it a little bit more easy to consume. So what I would do is Google it first so that you can get the base understanding of it. And once you understand it from whatever you find through Google, then go try to find the manual. Go look at the man page. Go look at the actual technical documentation. Yeah, appreciate that. Go look at the actual technical documentation, and try to work your way backwards a little bit. I think it might help put some context into the structure that people people use when they're trying to build out this technical documentation. You'll start to understand the patterns. You'll start to understand, you'll start to really understand what's being presented to you. And again, some of it just takes time. You can't really understand until we get a little farther and go. Like, they're using a lot of words here that if you're not already dealing with code, you don't really know. If you Google, it's better to Google GOLANG. Yeah, that's a good thing. Something we didn't talk about here yet. When you're Googling for Go stuff, obviously using the keyword Go is not going to be helpful because it's such a generic word for a lot of things. It's not called GOLANG. The language is not called GOLANG. Okay? It's not called GOLANG, and people are very adamant about that. But if you do want to find out, if you're trying to Google information about Go and you're working on a problem or you're trying to find out how something works, use GOLANG instead. That's how you're going to find what you want in Google. Thanks for throwing that out there, Jenny. That, yes, Go does not work. You should use GOLANG to find the information you need when you are Googling. Just like when I typed in Go documentation, I just typed in like Go Docs and it took me to that actual Go Docs tool. GOLANG Docs would have probably helped better. 100%. So GOLANG is what you're going to use when you Google it, but they've been adamant that it's not called GOLANG, it's just called Go. All right. I think besides that, go through, and if you want to try out some of these commands, feel free to do so. In the Google Classroom, you're going to get a command line cheat sheet. You're also going to get a little walkthrough tutorial thing to kind of be able to build, make folders and make a couple different folders and like move in between them so you can work on using relative file paths and absolute file paths in different ways on your own computer. And I think there's one more thing. There's one more thing dropping in there as well. So go through those things, come back ready next week, because now we're finally past all the entry level stuff of like getting set up. So we learn about Go, we learn about basic program, we have a basic understanding of programming languages, compiled versus interpreted, statically typed versus dynamically typed. We've gotten set up with our development environment. We've gotten VS Code installed. We've gotten the Go runtime installed on our computer. We've got, we're set up and we can start building Go applications right now already. And now we've learned enough about file paths on our system and interacting with the command line that when I start doing it, which I'm going to keep it to a minimum. I'm going to do most of the stuff from VS Code to make it easier for everybody. But we still will be doing some stuff from the command line, particularly running the code, because I think that's important for you to know. And there are a few other pieces that we have to do from the command line. You won't be completely lost. You'll say, hey, I may not have understood everything that we did, but I know he's doing this from the command line interface, and so I know he's just issuing commands to do things on his computer rather than clicking around in the GUI. But when we come back next Monday, finally, I know it feels like forever. When we come back Monday, here we go. Look at this, all Go stuff. We're actually gonna nothing but Go. We're gonna dive into documentation. You'll learn how to read the documentation we're working with. You'll know how to interact with it. You'll learn all about Go's primitive data types. You'll learn how to write variables and constants in Go. You'll learn how to display output. You'll start to understand some of the Go packages. And we'll go over the Go playground. Even though we've already gone over the Go playground a little bit, we'll spend a little bit more time with it because it's going to be a place where you can sandbox a lot of stuff for yourself. Will you be using Linux or Windows when using the command line? It's a good question. I'll be using Linux. I'll be using Linux because I assume most of you, maybe we should just do a poll. I'm assuming most of you are on Macs. That's a general assumption that I found in previous classes, but maybe we should do a poll and check. Fortunately, because I'm on Windows, because I'm based on Windows, even if I'm using the Linux command line, if you all need to see something done in Windows, if there's something that's confusing or you need to see it done in Windows, I can literally click a button and do it in Windows for you as well. But I'm probably doing most of it in Linux. Let's see. How can you change your username in Linux Ubuntu? So we're literally working on users and groups on Thursday and permissions and all that stuff in the Linux course. But there are a couple different ways you can go about doing this. You can create a new user and just use that new user. You can change your username as well. There can be some implications. There could be some implications to that. So I don't want to give you a command without ensuring that you understand all of the things that could be problematic with it. If you have a new computer setup, it might not be a big deal, but maybe there's a good guide. Ubuntu change username. Maybe they have one that has something recent that might have your stuff. Don't do it, but create a new one if you must. I agree on creating a new one. You can, like I said, you can change your own username. There can be some fallout for doing this. Yeah, there can be some fallout for it. So usually just create a new one. But I wanted to see if I could find something that could. I don't want to tell people just not to do stuff. I want to give you. Fill in the information on why I say you shouldn't do it, or why I might advise against it. And so maybe I'm gonna share this with you. Just check it out, read through it a little bit, see if it gives you any insight into understanding what's going on there. I have Git Bash installed on Windows. Will that work? That will work. So Git Bash will be fine for Git Bash will be fine for everything that we do here. Git Bash will not be fine for everything that we do in the Thursday Linux class. If you're trying to do that stuff, ! Linode, you can get a free Linode VPS. I have a bunch of credits that you can grab from Linode to get a free VPS that you can use to just get a web server. I'll get an online server that will allow you to do everything that we do in that class. Yep, on WCL2. Sadly, Windows. Yeah, I mean, no, Windows is fine. Now, I do understand if you don't have an amazing Windows computer, the type of Windows computer you're using does have a significant effect on your Windows experience. But Windows is lit, y'all. I'm a fan. You should come on Thursday and learn Linux to set up, install Ubuntu via cloud. Yeah. Yes. I think so too. For example, if you rename Windows, it leaves residual legacy information that still ties to your old username. Yeah, maybe it's different now. Yeah, Linux can be the same way. If you don't, the way you copy things over, it gets weird. You can just sudo edit the shadow SD password file. So I think you can. I think you can just edit Etsy shadow and Etsy password, and it will allow you to change your current user. That also can have some residual. Like if you've got stuff created on the system and you've done stuff, I think there could be a lot of issues with if you have applications that were installed with ownership of that user and all kinds of stuff. I think it can cause a lot of weird other issues. The best GOLANG book to get started? I'm not sure. Slow like Fox. I'm not a big book person. Only because I'm not a big learning from books. Because I find it, maybe if I got a PDF version, it'll be good, but I like to have something side by side on the computer. But maybe I'll try. I've actually never tried. I don't know. But if you know the basics of GOLANG, and you're trying to learn how to use GOLANG better, Pact Publishing, there's a guy named Johnny Borsico. He's dope. I think he's been on the stream once or twice. But he has a what are they called? Hold on. Standard Library Solutions. So Go has a big this is dope. Go Standard Library Solutions is absolutely dope. if you've already learned how to use Go to do basic coding stuff, if you're trying to use Go's like built-in tools to be able to solve real problems, this course is sick. It's so good. It's so good. It was super helpful for me. Like use native Go to like make cool stuff happen, because it's hard to know everything that Go has. Like, we're gonna talk about Go documentation and stuff. Like, it's hard to like hop into all the tools that Go has, the full standard library that it has, like built in. So this helped me kind of be able to understand more completely what was there. Any laptops you recommend getting? I currently have an Acer Aspire laptop and looking to upgrade in the future. Yeah, I mean, I'm not a Mac person, but cost to performance, you can't go wrong with a M1 MacBook Air. That is my all-around laptop recommendation for most people if you have about $1,000 to spend. If you have less than that to spend, if you have around $500 to $1,000, my recommendation is to go on Craigslist or go onto eBay and get an older ThinkPad and throw Linux on there. Personally, if you're cool with learning Linux and you want to dive deeper into programming and stuff, I think that's the best bang for your buck. I personally wouldn't purchase a Windows laptop for less than $500. And I know, hey, I understand if $500 is not nothing. So like, I completely understand, but if you can't, if you have less than $500, I personally, yeah, I mean, I'm still with a ThinkPad, or maybe an older like Dell Precision or XPS if you can find it on like eBay or something. I think is such a good bet. Also, ThinkPads are like repairable, so that's super duper helpful. I am a fan. I'm using a what's this thing called? I'm using a framework laptop. You can build a framework for less than $1,000 if you want a Linux laptop. If you want a Linux laptop and you have $1,000, and like you would prefer to get something Linux based instead and not use a Mac, get the framework laptop DIY edition. Build the 749 one. Grab yourself a SSD and some memory, and it'll be right around $1,000. Super duper helpful. Let's see this. Let's do a build really quick with, gotta have 16 gigs and bring your own. And only other cost here is the cost for, let's see, Wi-Fi. I'll take the base one. Yeah, I hope Framework succeeds as well. I'm a huge fan. The power adapters are dope. Definitely buy a power adapter if you just want to purchase something from them and you have an Ultrabook. Even if you have a MacBook Air or Pro, they're I'm telling you, their thing is pretty impressive. But if you have about $1,000, highly recommend Framework laptop if you're looking for a Linux laptop. System 76 is pretty cool too. If you're looking for Linux stuff, I do like System 76 laptops, or I like them as a company. The laptops are just Clevo laptops, like Clevo and Sega laptops. Like they're basically Chinese laptops that they've rebranded. The framework's a better choice for hardware. System 76 software is really impressive, and their support is really amazing. So, if you want that support, and you want to support a company like System 76, that's dope. But framework, we're looking for Linux at about $1,000. But the MacBook Air, Librem 14 is dope too. The only reason I didn't try out Librem, like any of the Librem products, was what happened? I think the first one I couldn't get in the US. Maybe aren't they like in like the UK? I think there was an issue getting the first one, and I tried to a couple times and I couldn't get it. I think is what happened. But the framework is a much more premium laptop than at least most of the System 76 computers I've tried, and I've tried a few of them. But yeah, ThinkPad to tinker with. I'm a big fan of ThinkPad laptops. $1,000, the M1 MacBook Air. What about M1 Mac Mini? Absolutely. If you don't need a laptop, Mac Mini, absolutely. Mac Mini's dope. Or grab like if you have $500, get an Intel Nook. For desktop purposes, you could build something nice for desktop. Well, that's assuming you already have a monitor and stuff. But like an Intel NUC is surprisingly good for that as well. You can also, but you know, if us talking about $500 laptops is like you're too rich for my blood, grab yourself any Chromebook. Chromebooks are amazing. Now, grab yourself a cheap Chromebook, one of the $300 Chromebooks, and set aside a monthly budget for GitHub code spaces. That is my ultimate recommendation. Set aside a small budget for GitHub code spaces. You can spend less than $10 a month on this and spend lots of time learning. You can set up a spend budget of just $5 per month and leave this up most of the time, as long as you remember to turn it off when you're not working with it anymore. But it basically gives you a full development environment, VS Code, and a server to do work on, right from the browser. So money's always a barrier. It really is always a barrier. There are solutions for everyone. You can also install Linux on Chromebooks. So you could buy a $300 Chromebook and throw Crouton on there and install Linux directly on it. But that's a lot of tinkering. If you don't want to have to tinker with it, there are web options for development environments. I actually have a guide in that Linode guide, that if you ! Linode, in that guide, I literally teach you how to create a new brand new VPS and to use VS Code and connect the two, so your computer doesn't need to be powerful at all. There are lots of options for that. Does Framework have 15-inch laptops? I only see 13. Yes, right now they still have only their first model out, which is the 13-inch laptop. I am with you. I really enjoy this 13-inch laptop. That's what I'm working on right now. That's actually what you've been looking at this whole time. I'm hoping that the next thing they come out with is a 15-inch laptop. That is my number one gripe about this laptop, is it's a little bit too small. But I'm telling y'all, this thing is a piece of art. It's impressive. I got my little D-brand skin on here. A good screen. It's nice. Really, really impressive little machine. All right, we gotta get out of here. Keep an eye out in the Google Classroom for all of the stuff that's about to drop. Then remember, we're gonna be diving into this next week. If you are interested in learning about cloud stuff, tomorrow we'll be diving into EC2. All right, so we'll also learn a little bit of Linux tomorrow. So we'll do EC2. Oh, on the test, y'all are doing pretty good. Y'all are doing pretty good on the last week's quiz. I think there's a quiz dropping this week too. But the last week's quiz, like, the scores are pretty high, even though there was some stuff in there that was new that you haven't learned about, which is cool. So y'all are doing good. Everyone hasn't done it. You got 65. That's great. That's great. This is, again, we're not learning to take tests. We're picking up knowledge over time. Take a look at some of the things that you got wrong. That's about right, though. I think if you got all the stuff that we actually covered right, I think you would only have gotten around a 70. So that's really good. I think about 30% of the questions are things, or 30% of the points are things that we haven't learned yet. So don't expect it. I can't seem to get the current stuff. Like, you can't seem to understand the current stuff, or you can't seem to get, what do you mean you can't seem to get the current stuff? Like, access it? Is Camp Code beginner friendly? Yes, it is. We're starting from scratch. So we spent some time with IAM. We'll be learning about EC2, and then we'll be doing an EC2 lab the following week. So we'll spend 2 weeks on EC2. So come through tomorrow if you want to do that, and we're gonna, start from the very beginning of it. I'm enrolled in the classroom, but only see 2020 stuff. You might be enrolled in the wrong classroom. You're probably in one of these older, like, Decoded Apprentice or something like that, or Decoded. So if you do code, that doesn't get you enrolled in the right one. That link right there should get you enrolled in the right one. 65 just means you know a bunch of stuff, but still have more to learn. No, seriously though. That means you know a lot. 65 means you know a bunch of stuff. Yes, there's always more to learn. It's not about 100%ing. That's why I like people want quizzes. I'm a little bit against quizzes. I would more so like to do more labs and projects. But I do think there's some. The quiz is mostly for you all to see the things that you know and don't know. The quizzes from that quiz was short. The quizzes are actually going to get a lot longer. Not, you can save it. You don't have to take it all at once, but they're going to be longer. Again, so that you can start to see what things you have a real understanding of and things you don't. So don't stress about it. Write down the things that you're like, I didn't really know. I didn't really understand this one, or I didn't really know for sure what the answer to this was. So you can do a little bit more research on it. Also, let me know if I got something wrong. It's easy to click a wrong button while I'm making them. So let me know. Do you have a timetable on everyday teaching? Yeah. So if you hit exclamation point schedule, one of them gives you the Google Calendar. So yeah, that looks right. Let me copy this. So Monday, Tuesday, Thursday is when we teach here. From 7 p.m. Eastern time to between 9:30 and 10. Oh wow, that didn't work at all. Perfect. From 7 p.m. to between 9:30 and 10 o'clock is how long we'll go for. Before you go, would you recommend I install Windows 11 on my unsupported hardware? I just built this PC and I'm not ready to upgrade yet. So on my unsupported hardware, what's when you say you're not ready to upgrade yet, so you just built a computer. Are you this is an interesting one. I wonder why it says it's not supported. I'm interested to know why it says it isn't supported. I'm not ready to buy another CPU. I wouldn't, if it says it's unsupported, I wouldn't upgrade to Windows 11. Are you on Windows 10 currently? Windows 10 is great. I wouldn't be, so for anyone who's not on Windows 11, if you're on Windows 10, I wouldn't be pressed Windows 11's cool, but there's nothing, it's not that cool. With the TMS and the motherboard, I think honestly that you might just need to enable that, but if not, I wouldn't upgrade. I wouldn't even try to upgrade. Yeah, if you don't have the TPM chip, then you just can't do it. No big deal. I have Windows 10, but Windows 11 on my laptop it's pretty. It is pretty. Windows 11 is pretty. I agree with you. I wouldn't spend the money if the computer's working. Leave Windows 10 on it and keep chugging along, or figure out how to install Linux on there, and dual boot maybe, and get some more life out of it for sure. You might end up preferring Linux, but yeah. I wouldn't. Don't spend money until you have to, or until you have a real reason. If it's a working computer, keep using Windows 10. Spares, I have that model. Sound great, balance and base. They're super. Oh yeah. These are great. I love these. I love these a lot. Windows 11 WSL is better if you can upgrade that. That's true. WSL on Windows 11 is better. Cool. Yeah. All right, everybody. Let's find someone to raid. Thanks for coming through on Monday. I'm surprised that I was able to stay awake. I saw someone tell me to get some rest. I will. I'll definitely get some rest. I'll come back strong tomorrow. I'll get some sleep. I'm gonna stay up and do a little bit more work tonight. And then I'll definitely get some rest. Let's go with Twitch. Who's online? Let's see. Let me get into the section. Oh, Juicebox. We got to go see Juicebox. So Juicebox Hero is dope. She actually works for Twitch, and she builds some cool things in JavaScript and does a lot of fun stuff on here. She's really, really cool. So say hello. Let's go raid. Yeah, fam's great. I really do appreciate it. Everyone is good to go. My wife's probably knocked out right now because, like I said, we're not we're a little we're not young anymore. We're not as young as we feel. We can't hang out with the young kids as much. Is that right? Did I type that in correctly? Cool. We're out of here. Say hello to Juicebox Hero. She's dope. Go learn some stuff over there. See you tomorrow if you're coming through for Camp Cloud. See you Thursday if you're coming through for more Linux stuff for the DevOps anthologies. Go have a good night. Go relax a little bit. Peace out, everybody. My back.